Welcome to the February 6th meeting of the Select Board. We will begin tonight's meeting with a public hearing on the secret ballot referendum questions for the March 15th, 2024 election. So I will read each article, and if anyone has any questions or comments, then we'll So I think we do, the public hearing is before.
Oh, before. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's okay, that's okay. So on our sheet that has municipal officers notice of public hearing, secret ballot referendum questions for the March 15th, 2024 election. Notice is hereby given that the municipal officers of the town of Belgrade will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, February 6th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Belgrade Town Office in said town to hear public comments on the following referendum articles 3 through 8 for the annual March town meeting as listed below. And the first one is Article 3. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $1,138 for the Sexual Assault Crisis and Support Center? The 2023 actual was $1,138. The 2024 request was $1,138. The Select Board recommended 3 in favor, no against, 2 absent. The Budget Committee recommended 3 in favor, 1 against, and 2 absent. Is there any comment on Article 3? Any comment or questions? Seeing none. Article 4, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $60,000 for lake protection to be dispersed to the following lake associations in fiscal year 2024 as follows. Belgrade Lakes Association for Great Pond Milfoil Removal, 2023 actual was $24,000. The 2024 request is $24,000. Friends of Messalonsky for Belgrade Stream Milfoil Removal. The actual amount in 2023 was $19,650. The 2024 request is $19,650. Seven Lakes Alliance for Courtesy Boat Inspection and Youth Conservation Corps. The actual amount in 2023 was $12,600. The request for 2024 is $12,600. McGraw Pond Salmon Lake Association for Courtesy Boat Inspection and Youth Conservation Corps and a portolet is actual requested in 2023. The actual amount in 2023 was $3,750, and the request in 2024 is $3,750 for a total of $60,000 in both years. And funding is from property taxes, $60,000. The Select Board recommendation was 3 in favor, no opposed, 2 absent. The Budget Committee recommendation was 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 2 absent. Is there any discussion on Article 4? Seeing none, we'll go to Article 5. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $1,562.40 to help fund spectrum generations for Belgrade residents? The actual amount in 2023 was $1,488. The requested amount for 2024 is $1,562.40. The Select Board recommendation was 3 yeses, no opposed, and 2 absent. The Budget Committee recommendation was 3 yeses, 1 opposed, and 2 absent. Any discussion on Article 5? Any questions? Seeing none, Article 6, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $1,500 to help fund hospice volunteers of Waterville area, which provides services to the residents of 2023 actual amount was $1,500. The 2024 request is $1,500. The Select Board recommendation is 3 in favor, 2 opposed, 2 absent. I'm sorry, no opposed, 2 absent. The Budget Committee recommendation is 4 in favor, no opposed, and 2 absent. Any discussion on Article 6? Seeing none. Article 7. shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $350 to help fund Kennebec Behavioral Health Mental Health Services for the uninsured and underinsured residents of Belgrade. There was the actual amount of 2023 was $0. The request for 2024 is $350. The select board recommendation is 3 yeses, 0 no's, and 2 absent. The budget committee recommendation was 4 yeses, 0 no's, and 2 absent. Is there any discussion on Article 7? Seeing none, Article 8, to see if the town will authorize the Board of Select Persons to convey to Belgrade state legislatures, members of Congress, Governor, and President of the United States that the town hereby calls upon our federally elected representatives to enact a cashback carbon pricing legislation to protect Maine from the costs and environmental risks of continued climate inaction. Cashback carbon pricing charges fossil fuel producers for their carbon pollution and rebates the money collected to all residents on an equal basis with monthly dividend checks. The record of the vote approving this resolution shall be transmitted by written notice to the above mentioned parties by the Board of Select Persons within 30 days of this vote. And there was no recommendation required for that. Is there any question or discussion on Article 8? Let's see.
There's a hand raised,
Oh, there's a hand raised?
just came up.
I can't.
Oh, I see it. Paul and Cynthia.
Okay, Paul and Cynthia?
Hi,
go ahead.
yes, we're just here to, on behalf of Bonnie Salmons, who is one of your Belgrade residents. We don't actually live in Belgrade, but she's away, and if anybody has questions about what this particular article is about, we can provide some background or whatever.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see any questions, but now that there is someone to respond, does anybody have any questions? No.
Does the Board of Selectmen understand basically what this is about? I mean,
Yes,
Select Board.
yes, we've had a presentation from Bonnie.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much for being available and thanks for zooming in. We appreciate it. Okay. So
Screen still.
no further questions? I move, oh, Tanya, you have a question?
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay, seeing no further questions, I move that we close the public hearing. Okay, thank you. Ready to vote? All in favor? Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yeah.
And I'll vote yes. So, thank you. The public hearing is now closed. So now I'd like to call to order the February 6th meeting of the Board of Select Persons, and we will begin with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, yeah. Lorna, can you change the view from to gallery or whatever it is? Maybe up at the top.
Go your camera.
Up at the top right.
Camera on the bottom.
Yep,
Right there. Right here.
Yeah.
Click on that. I don't think it seems to say like gallery.
I think it's view
Under
on the
view.
top, under view on the top right, where it says view.
Oh, I see, top right, gallery. There we go.
Yeah.
Better?
Perfect.
Much better.
Okay,
Okay, good. Thank you.
okay. So we have a quorum, all 5 of us are here tonight. And we would, I'd like to open the meeting with, I move we open the meeting with public comment. Okay, is there anybody who would like to speak to anything that is not on the agenda tonight? This is the opportunity for anyone to have an opportunity to bring something to the attention of the select board that's not on the agenda. No, okay. Seeing none, I move that we open discussion of the approval of the minutes from January 16th and January 29th.
Seconded.
Anybody have any questions about the minutes on January 23rd?
So, Barbara, on the second page, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down. It says, in addition, the board agreed that all new eligible employees will be offered participation in the Main State Retirement. The 457 plan currently in place will not take any new participants. And I was not under the understanding that we were going to main PERS and we were taking the other option off the table. And I have had a couple of employees tell me that they don't have any intention of joining main PERS because their buy-in is several $1,000s.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was new employees.
new employees,
Okay, so new employees we're not going to offer,
the 457.
Eventually, we want to get everyone switched over to main PERS down the road.
but we have some current employees that don't want to participate.
they don't
They don't have to, they don't have to.
So we feel like forcing people who might be new to municipality to join something that they may not want to do for the next 30 or 40 days. Or can we offer them, I mean, initially, when we started talking about this, we were gonna offer both plans.
I've been saying that long, so we were trying to streamline it so we don't have that plan down the road.
Right, eventually we have one.
Eventually, but this is a trial. So why would we tell folks from the first year that we're trying it that they don't have another option?
Didn't know it was a trial.
I don't know that it's a trial, yeah, I don't know that it's a trial. We're switching,
Right.
we're giving current employees the opportunity to switch over, but then we're saying all subsequent employees, this will be the plan.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood that because I wasn't under the understanding that we were full vote in on main PERS the first year that we were gonna try something and we were taking away the plan that's been in place for all eternity. That's tried and true. And I don't know that we've even had a full discussion with all the employees. They've not had a presentation. My understanding is they weren't gonna do a presentation until after we accepted this at town meeting. So I don't know that I feel super comfortable telling people that we've decided the best course of action for you without at least a trial run to see if it's beneficial for everyone across the board.
I don't know that we ever discussed it as a trial, no.
Well, I feel like last year when I asked if they could come to a presentation, we were looking at it as a trial. And then this year, when I re-asked for a presentation, and the second part of that was that I asked that all of the employees be invited to attend an information session. And there's been no information session for them.
I did invite employees, and let them know of the presentation for the board meeting when, Deanna Doyle came.
Right, but then at that meeting, we requested that they do a separate presentation for the employees.
Well,
And
we'll
then
do
she
that
came
once
back
it's
and said
accepted.
that she wasn't going to do that until it was accepted unless we requested otherwise.
I mean, it's not going to affect an existing employee unless they choose to take the new plan. They can stay just like they are now. So it only would affect new members, new hires from,
And that's only if the town accepts it.
Right,
and that's if the
Main
town
PERS.
accepts it, that's
Right.
right.
I guess I was thinking that by going with the MEPR's option, provided the same level of assurance and for the vehicle for investments. So I wasn't under the impression that a trial would be something that would be needed. That was my own opinion about that.
So what if somebody chooses not to join main perks because the cost is an impediment? I mean, we're talking, some folks have 2 years to buy in for $40,000.
They don't,
But they don't have
But
to
they
buy
don't
in.
have-
Right, that they don't.
they don't even have to switch to main perks.
They
Right,
can just stay where they are, right?
yeah,
But a new employee wouldn't have any buy-in. That's why we're switching all new employees. Because at that point, you're starting from day one with the full benefits. You don't have a buy-in, because the buy-in's a catch-up for existing employees.
There would be no financial hardship for anybody that's brand new.
Right.
Right.
It's, you have a vehicle, like you would have had a vehicle before with a 457. I'm not a financial analyst, but I'm just thinking about the paths forward for each. It seemed like it was a fair option, if not a very good option, to have the MEPRS option on the table. Doesn't mean we'll pass it per meeting.
and if they do the main PERS when they first come on, are they still eligible for their social security?
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes,
Yeah.
and that's very unique.
Just been some.
We have that special agreement. Very unique.
And that's a huge boom.
It is, yeah.
Any other questions on the minutes?
I did not have the, last page. If you look, the motion and vote, motion second and vote.
Oh, I know. That was somewhere.
Question.
Oh, on the executive session?
Yeah,
So started
Oh,
out somewhere.
doesn't it right? Oh, no.
That's the next.
Oh, that's
the next one. That's the
Okay.
next one.
Then I did have a couple other questions, Barbara.
Okay, go ahead.
Under town manager's report, we have the launch of Clear Web. Are we still doing that?
discussing this with front office employees because we're short-staffed. Out front right now, we're going to wait
Until,
when they feel comfortable moving forward.
and then my last question was the health officer. Are we still looking for a health officer?
We are, I don't have any candidates, but yes.
Was on my sheet.
Okay, so we'll have to, I don't have notes from that meeting.
What?
As far as the time.
Oh, the time.
Executive session.
Yeah,
They're open so much. I think that's when you were in Florida. I think.
but she did this executive session.
Yeah, but I do it. State is no. She was in Florida.
I was on Zoom
I don't,
for the 23rd, you're right, I was in Florida.
if,
So-
yeah, I thought you took it, I may have timed in my notes, but I didn't,
Okay.
so we'll have to.
And just one thing on the first page, the town of Belgrade, meeting agenda, we can change that to meeting limits. I know it's the old cut and paste.
It is.
Yeah. Easy to do. So can we approve these pending completion of the information from executive session?
Or we can,
What is it
Wait
we're
until
missing?
the
Because
next
we have time noted here.
No, that's for the next meeting. With an executive session after the meeting on the 23rd.
Well, this is the 29th.
So,
and I
so
looked
this is,
quickly, I thought that's what it was.
this is the 23rd. So,
The 23rd, we went into executive session at 10 o'clock. It was like right around 10:40, I believe, when we left,
10:38.
so that would make sense.
Oh,
Do you know who
okay.
motioned and seconded?
I motion to go in,
So Melanie.
and I think Dan, so.
Seconded.
Okay.
Okay, and then to exit, I've got the time, but I don't have motion and second.
Let's see, no, because
I was in Florida. so
Right.
didn't-
I think
didn't
I
make any
seconded.
motions.
I think I seconded. And Carol. did
Carol's
you
running the
motion?
meeting, so she.
So probably moved, yeah,
Motion,
Okay,
yeah,
I
and
believe,
then motion to enter regular session, that was probably Carol.
probably Carol, yeah.
And second,
Yeah,
Okay.
right after each other.
all right, and then maybe motion to adjourn?
All of us.
we were ready.
I only need
At
one.
10:39, we're ready to go.
Just put on Carol.
Just with
Okay.
Carol and Peter,
I'll do.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
So with that information, are we
Yeah, we need
okay?
a motion to accept it.
Minutes
So-
is amended.
Do I
Okay.
move,
Dan just moved to
Gotcha.
accept the minutes.
second?
Okay, all in favor, Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Melanie, how about yes, 5 yeses. And so in this one, for this executive session, we have the times, but we don't have the people again. We don't have who you can second.
I was on this one, you're back.
I was back, yeah.
You
I was
probably
back.
moved.
So I would have moved to call the meeting to order,
I probably seconded.
Put down Carol.
Barbara and Carol.
Barbara,
Okay.
Carol,
Will do.
all the way.
Okay, and I have a question that's not a correction, but a question, when we look at remote participants. And we have Dell and Sharon and Nicholas, and maybe we know who some of those people are, but since we ask people to sign in when they come in person so that we have a record of who's here, should we ask people who are online to identify themselves if their name does not come up?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
Should.
yes.
And so can we do that now?
Yeah.
Yes.
As people get on, if they don't have their name up there.
Yes,
Who is Spectrum, number 4.
okay, so we have Chris and Maddie Bradley, we have
Doris Mathias.
Doris Mathias.
We'll identify you, Doris.
I think there are 2 that we need. iPhone, and then there's.
iPhone is Doris Mathias. And Doris Mathias then is
Oh,
Rod
okay.
Johnson.
Sorry. Okay, and then how about the phone number 1717?
1717, that's a Pennsylvania phone number. Pennsylvania phone number, can you identify yourself, please? You're muted, but if you could identify yourself, we would appreciate it.
And if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Skip over it.
If they don't identify.
If they don't
themselves,
ident-
I remove them.
Yeah, if they don't identify
I put them
themselves.
in the waiting room until they do identify themselves and then.
Okay, well, let's be clear about that. 717 area code, we're asking you to identify yourself. And we'll put you back in the waiting room. When you can identify yourself, we'll let you back into the meeting. Thank you.
Or we could send them a message still. in case they-
Can we do the ask to unmute from the top?
Ask to unmute.
If you do the ask to unmute, it
Okay.
actually sends them a message.
Okay,
They're not speaking, you should be in the waiting room anyway, she's still here, though.
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yes.
there we go.
Hello.
Hi, and we would like your name, so we can,
Yeah, my name is Paul Thompson. Paul Thompson. I live at 19 Carr Lane.
okay. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
All right, you can stay.
We didn't want any Zoom bombers tonight.
I'll zoom in a few minutes when I get home.
Okay.
You want to see what I
So,
look like?
We can't wait.
so under unfinished business, I move that we open discussion on the 142 Woodland follow-up.
Second,
Okay. And the follow-up starts with Hans. Would you like to start off with your report in response to the last meeting?
Okay. As per your request. I think you've all read this,
We have, but I don't know if everybody's seen it, so why don't you read it for the record?
This document is a response to a memo referencing specific paragraphs. The town of Belgrade showing its ordinance of concerned citizens of Great Pond and neighbors at 142 Living Camp Road. First concern in the memo references granite steps going into the lake. Steps do not go into the lake, but to the normal high water line. Placement of the granite is at the termination end of the drain pipe from the house.
Pardon me, Hans, I'm sorry. I'm watching people that are leaning into here, and it may be hard. Would you be willing to come up front?
Good one.
Just so they can hear.
Yeah.
Don't want to confuse you.
Okay, so the placement of the steps, of the granite steps, is at the termination end of a drain pipe from the house. Top step acts as a retaining stone to catch surface runoff. The steps below help to mitigate erosion from drained water. The granite is part of a repair to a failed drain. This activity is classified as maintenance to the home. A large stone was removed to accommodate the placement of the drain. Granite is a native stone of Maine and was approved as part of the permit by rule issued for this repair. No permit is required by the town of Belgrade to do maintenance. Emails correspondence is attached to confirm permits were discussed but not required, and the location of the drain in relation to the steps. The second concern is regarding the removal of trees and stuff from the construction site. Images provided from prior to the advent of repairs demonstrate duck area, grass area, and a few trees. The health of the trees cannot be determined from the photos. Damage to roots can be expected with the activities required to complete the repairs. The construction equipment required to remedy the drainage situation in this property created an abundance of exposed soil. Containment to the soil is required to prevent it from eroding into the lake. Site is an acceptable method of erosion control. While site is not preferred by some conservation groups, it is not illegal and it is effective. Another concern was that the cleared openings exceeded the allowable 25% of the total lot. I did not agree with this claim. This property and neighboring properties have an abundance of hazard trees that are being managed. Some stumps remain above the surface grade. Others have been ground into mulch, which is used in other locations. The occupants at 142 have planted many trees, shrubs, and bushes. The next concern relates to a planning board meeting on September 15th, 2022, for an after-the-fact permit. The application is tabled for future review due to incompleteness. The reason for the judgment of incomplete was the location of the path on the lake to the lake on renderings. The location was modified from its original intended location to where it is presently for better erosion control. The provided renderings did not accurately demonstrate the location of the path. New renderings were requested. The rendering with the attached email demonstrates the path over the area disrupted by the drain repair. A 6 foot path for access to the water body is allowed without permit. The pathway on this property is less than 6 feet wide and is not a continuous hard surface. It consists of stepping stones to draw traffic to a common pathway across the yard. This pathway is a low point on the property, and the stepping stones are strategically placed to keep a trough from being worn into the terrain. A trough would create an avenue for surface water to run off directly to the lake. Where the pathway meets the lake is the location of the granite steps. The steps are an erosion control element for the drain repair and subsequently do not require a permit from the planning board. These steps are all part of these steps are all above the water line as permitted by the permit by rule approved by DEP and RPA. This property has been scrutinized and overseen by 3 code enforcement officers. Stop work orders have been put in place pending determination of proper process. No fines have been levied against the owners. The attached email demonstrates that the owners questioned if permits were required and had repairs done in good faith.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any board members have any questions? Any members of the audience have any questions?
I think Chris does.
I think Chris does.
Okay, Chris?
Yes, hi, Chris Bradley. I live on Echo Cove Road, which is right near the property, and we actually own a parcel. My wife Maddie and I own a parcel of land that abuts 142. And I was at the planning board meeting back in 2022, I think it was, that discussed this situation and the permit, and it seemed like it was the planning board tabled for inconsistencies. And I guess one question I have is why this hasn't been revisited by the planning board and and a permit issued or denied. That would be my question. One question. I've got some other ones as well.
Would you like to answer that, Peter?
I'll do my best. Chris, thanks for your question. Because I was on the planning board at that time. And my understanding of any application like this would be that the charge of the planning board is to process complete applications. And then once it's rendered complete, a decision could be made. There is no charge for the planning board, or anywhere that I know of, legally or otherwise for the town, that would have any burden for the application board to follow up with an applicant.
Following up what Peter said, as I've looked through this, it seems to me as if we have I'll call it a gap. Because I went to that meeting and my memory of that is the planning board said, you need to, there was an incomplete drawing, I believe, and said you need to get this filled out and come back to the board. And I assumed, I did not go to another planning board meeting on it, that had been done. And it turns out that normally, if you were trying to build something, you would go and get it filled out and come back because you want to continue to work. This was an after the fact permit, I believe. So therefore, there was no impetus for the other party to come back. And the planning board, it appears, doesn't have the responsibility to track those. And so there are people that should have come back with a completed application, but it appears as though there's no charge to make sure that's done. And I think it's a gap. I don't know that anyone didn't do their job. It seems to be a gap in process. And that's where I think some of this came back with, and it was something about some of the drawing on it that how do we pursue that? And I guess that's one of the questions I have is if the planning board isn't charged with making sure they come back, if that's not their job, and we haven't said to the CEO, well, you now have to go chase these people and get it. Where does that responsibility lie? And I think it's an open area, and it's an area that is the planning board that the town needs to close in some format. But I don't know that anyone didn't do what they were supposed to do as far as the CEO of the planning board. It's that there wasn't a vehicle to do it, because it's not that often, or I don't believe it's that often you have after the fact permits.
Right, it would
Am I
be
correct?
rare, it would be rare, actually.
Yeah,
You know, the burden is always on the applicant to provide sufficient information so that the planning board could make a decision once the application is considered complete. Without that, there's no means to make a decision. And so without making a decision, we can't either deny the application or cannot approve the application. And so in this case, when you're saying it's tabled, oftentimes it's left with the applicant who might have incentive because they want to get a permit to do what they want to do. In this case, not the same.
Right. So can I ask a point of clarification? So am I understanding that there was an incomplete application and the work continued? They did not go back to the planning board?
The work was done.
The work was
So
done,
the
that
work
was that.
Okay, so, and so then I think that's one of the things that concerns citizens in Belgrade is that stuff gets done and then folks are approved after the fact. And how do we prevent that from happening? That if you don't have an application in front of us in the beginning and you continue to do work on the property, what mechanisms do we have in place to have people go back and remove what they've done? Because it would seem like if we did that one or two times, nobody would be doing it.
I may address the specific situation. I hope I'm speaking loud enough that you can all hear me online. Is, what they did is this rendering showed the redirection of the path to where the path was over the drain that was replaced. And I believe there was no reason for them to be at the planning board in the first place, because this was part of a maintenance project. They did not bring in quantities of soils that required a visit to the planning board. They didn't do any other construction that would have needed approval by the planning board. So the application didn't come back. It wasn't because the Yorks or didn't come back. There's several email conversations that said permits were not required. Gary told them it wasn't required. I got emails from Andy Dunbar that actually showed the checklist of the land use requirements that were highlighted as there was no requirement for the activity. So, you know.
But I guess problem, my question with that is whether or not that pathway is in someone else's, is in a right of way. So if the pathway construction was in a right of way that belongs to both parties, does that,
That's a different element.
that's a different,
This pathway goes from the house to the lake. There's no right of way between their house and the lake.
okay, so it's the one on the side, that's the right of way that's in
It's
contention.
behind the house. It's a different
Sarah.
element.
Sarah?
Well, you didn't finish first, you have all the stuff to say?
No, I'm answering questions. It's fine.
Okay. So I used to, want to say something about.
Can you identify yourself, Sarah, please?
Huh?
Identify yourself.
My name is Cyril Anget, and I am part of the planning board, personally part of the planning board. So, very interestingly, just, the second week of January, we had a very nice DEP clinic here. And, that was really very enlightening about, the job of the DEP and how PBRs do work. So this particular,
PBR meaning permit by rule.
perimeter, that's right. So this particular, project, they went and get a PBR from the state. So the PBR to say, give the applicant this much, right to do what they can do, right? So when that PBR is issued, the applicant comes to the CEO and double check that they don't need, approval from the planning board. At the time when this happened, the CEO gave the green light, that you don't need approval from any other approval from the planning board. So they went on to do the project. And, so far, I guess the reinvestigation about making sure that they stay within the guidelines of the PBR are there. So usually if a PBR comes here and it needs other things that are not I know blankets are done by the PBR, then it kicks the can to the planning board. So I just thought, clarify that, and that's something that I just learned myself, like, 3 weeks ago. So that's, actually, the training, the clinic is in a video of the planning board. Anybody that would like to look into it and get very informed about these rules, they're right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, did you have another question?
Well, as part of Chris, can I say something?
Amen.
Thank you. I know that the CEO mentioned that there wasn't a lot of excavation involved with the maintenance. But as neighbors, I think I can say that there was a lot of excavation involved with putting the lawn in. And so maybe there wasn't, I don't think that maybe the town was completely aware of how much excavation that was involved with putting the lawn in, or maybe, I don't know how, there was a lot of excavation involved with the project. So I think that's where maybe there's a communication problem between the concerned citizens and the town. And I also am concerned that there was mention of the drainage, using the steps as part of the drainage going all the way down to the lake. None of us drain all the way down to the lake. So I think there's a lot of miscommunication between what we believe is best practices and what we believe the folks are doing at 142.
Well, I guess, once again, Chris Bradley, my concern would be that there's a perimeter drain, which, like, we have a full basement in our house. We have a perimeter drain. It goes out probably halfway to the lake at the most, and is the water that drains from our foundation goes through the all the vegetation. We have lots of vegetation there, bushes and trees. And so it wouldn't run into the lake. The report from the CEO says that the drain goes down right to the lake, and that the steps were put in to keep that shore frontage from eroding, which would be a real concern. One, that the phosphorus and the gravel that would be draining down through that pipe, and I'm the lake water quality monitor for Great Pond, so I'm conversant on in the phosphorus issue that's leads to algae blooms in the lake. If that water, which you'd expect to have a bunch of phosphorus in it, is going directly into the lake, and the steps are trying to keep it from eroding the shoreline, I just feel like that seems to me, in my opinion, that would be a real issue. And what my memory from the planning board meeting was that was not something brought up. The lawn was brought up, the fertilizer that the owners had put on the lawn, that was mentioned. I remember that distinctly from the planning board meeting, but it just seems like there's an issue here that is sort of not being explored, is why do we have a drain running into the lake? Why are cut granite steps the best practice to keep erosion, which implies there's a lot of volume of water running into the lake? And that's just what everything's all about Lake Smart, and it's all designed to stop that sort of thing. So I'm confused by that.
All I can speak to is on the plan, the bottom of it here, it says install 6-inch under drain pipe with green styrofoam installation to shoreline with add repellent, rodent guard and outlet of pipe. So that's what was approved.
And this was approved by the planning board or by the state, by the permit by rule?
Yes.
So it's not,
So
so
apparently
it's not anything that the town
No,
ever
it's-
approved.
Apparently it's an engineering practice. It was presented and accepted.
So can I ask Hans, is there,
Rod has a question.
oh, sorry. Is there anything about the right of way and the spike fence, like, that's part of the petition, the right of way that's now?
That's a civil matter. And, the spike fence, there's a nuisance law about spike fences that's specifically states that the fence is unnecessarily taller than 6 feet. And with the amount of attention given to this property by passerbys, I believe it is necessary to be as tall as it is for privacy reasons. But again, that's a civil matter. That's my opinion. This nuisance law concerning spike fence allows the neighbor to directly complain about the neighbor. It is not a neighborhood complaint. It's specifically to two property owners.
Is one of them the one who's right of way? It's compromised.
I have no part of the right of way. It's not a town issue. It's a civil matter. I haven't read the deeds. I don't know who has access to it, privilege to it, who owns the land. That's separate from this.
And so what, oh wait, Rod, did you have a question, Rod?
I'd like to jump in if this is a good time. I totally agree. Excuse me, I got an iPad here that needs to be shut off. Here we go. I totally agree with what Chris is saying and Carol, and that things are remiss, have been, and still are. And we just haven't been tight enough in our ordinances. Excuse me, hold 1 second. I'm going to turn off. There we go. I've just written a letter that some of you should have received, sort of outlining frustration and taking an overall view of what has happened in the last decade or maybe 15 years to that particular property really shows that we have very weak ordinances and we've had weak enforcement. I'm not pointing fingers to anybody at this point. No reason to. What's there is there. That doesn't mean we can't get some of it rectified. But here we are talking about a pipe and a lawn to the lake when BLA spends hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to hire a workforce to put down mulch and to reduce drainage into the lake that isn't filtered through land, soils, bark, and so on, the dirty mulch. It defies, 142 defies everything else we're working towards as a group and many groups. It is totally bizarre that this place turned into from a small camp that a priest lived in to a fully commercialized situation with 130 or 40-foot dock, floats, jet skis, lawns, huge fences. It's just totally not what I don't think most of us want. And I think we need to get on it right now and get the ordinances strengthened and enforcement strengthened and stop cutting these people slack that are doing this stuff. I'm sorry I'm so angry, but I am. This has been going on too damn long. Thank you.
I think one question is, what is the role of the state vis-a-vis what is the role of the town? And if in this case, people were told by the state that what they were doing is okay, and the town, there's no role for the town.
Yeah, like I said, I'm the third code enforcement officer to look at this. Okay, and I came in, I didn't know anybody involved. Okay, I was totally fresh. I looked at the facts, and what I cannot find is a reason for a permit with what they've done on this project. All right, this is a drainage repair. They had water backing up into their house. They had to remedy the situation, or the house would be ruined, there'd be mold, there'd be other health concerns. This was done by a reputable engineering firm locally. Andy Dunbar has consulted with me as to what really happened. How was this done? How was this allowed? And I've got no reason to doubt anything Andy Dunbar says. He's experienced, he's a professional. This part of the project is above board. Okay, the pipe, the drain to the lake was approved. Do we like that it's okay? Maybe not. But it's not for this town to change the state rules.
Sarah?
I would say to that in that clinic also, we heard that the PBR can be approved and sent by the state, but our ordinances can be more strict.
Right.
Now, I think you have answered to this. We don't have any ordinance of more strict than.
We do. Our shoreline zone ordinance is more strict than the chapter 1000 guideline ordinance from the state. And in neither ordinance, the state's chapter 1000 or the Belgrade shoreline zone ordinance doesn't even mention a pipe draining groundwater to the lake. It's basically subterranean water, catch basin to.
So
Yeah.
then what I'm hearing here is, I guess my opinion is what I'm hearing here is that we don't have a rule that goes above what being approved. And for that matter, then the only way that can be changed, so I understand, is having the select board make a motion to have the planning board work on that and strengthening the ordinance. I hear very clear that that's an issue, and then I hear very clear that the emergence of short rentals in this town, the so-known world Airbnbs, and I hear this from different citizens in town, that are bringing nonsense to this town. So consequently, there are vehicles that we can use in strengthening the ordinance to probably rule those out or regulate those out here in this town. We're not the only municipality with this issue. Around the state, there are other municipalities with that issue. The ones that seems to be really easier with regulating that kind of activity, they have zoning, we don't have zoning. So we are kind of a special creature on that can be worked, I don't know, but it's something that we should continue dialogue, and specifically something that the DCD, recently we're working on a separate thing with the state. We have a mandate with the LD 2003.
Yes.
I forgot the full name of it. Lorna, if you can help me.
Accessory dwelling.
Accessory dwelling.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the idea with LD 2003 is to increase housing,
Right,
so.
so together with that train, different municipalities have asked the DECD, I don't know what that stands for, but it's Department of the State that deal with housing. Anyways, they have been a lot of municipalities asking questions about how to regulate, short rentals. And, we have to start dialoguing about that because we're seeing the first, grassroots of the effects of this kind of, business. And, this is one example. Other people in town have contacted me. I don't know, it seems that, they think I can solve that with a magic wand, but I can't. I just, the role of the planning board is exclusively a processing group. As the applications comes in, we measure the application against the standard ordinance. The application, this is the rule, here's the application, pass, or the application is this big and the rule is this big, and it will pass. So that's all we can do, as a group, it's just a processing group. The enforcement is CEO, and then, the understanding of the, ordinances and as they apply to the field, it comes through the CEO. So I hope that all that helps and that it promotes dialogue about having a group of citizens come with a plan, maybe to the select board, and ask the select board to get involved, the planning board, and then we can act on, enacting or producing an ordinance that, we solve or place, let's say, a guardrail on this thing. So, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Peter?
I just wanted to thank you, Sarah, for that great summary. That really encapsulates what's going on now. I wanted to point out, Rod had talked about, the ordinances a little bit. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate that feedback because the town has taken great pains to listen to the citizens to improve the ordinance when possible. For example, we did revise the shoreline zoning ordinance a few years ago, and that took quite a long time to go through that. We took specific comments that came from the result of the comprehensive plan that applied to specific areas of the shoreline zoning ordinance to revise and improve that ordinance where we could. Also comparing that to chapter 1000, as Sarah mentioned. So we have tried to incorporate those where we can, bring it to the voters for look for approval. So we do have a process. It is painfully slow. I do agree it takes a while to get things changed. But I just wanted to point that out, that's all.
And I wanted to mention, Peter mentioned about the comprehensive plan. We are right now in the midst or the beginning stages, so to speak, of updating our comprehensive plan. And so this is a time that if there are changes that should be brought to the attention of the comprehensive plan committee, which is right now working sort of chapter by chapter through the various components of the plan, but there will be lots of opportunity for public comment and public input. So that would be an opportunity for people to make known what sort of changes. If it's in the comprehensive plan, then we, certainly can pay attention to the comprehensive plan. So that's a good way perhaps for people to get involved. The other issue that was alluded to is best practices versus what's actually in the ordinances. And the best practices as promoted by Seven Lakes and the various lake associations are, I don't want to say more stringent because they're not ordinances, but they can be different from what's actually in the ordinance. And Hans can only enforce what's in the ordinances. He can't enforce what's best practices until it becomes an ordinance. So that's just something to keep in mind, that we rely a lot on individual property owners to adhere to best practices. And that's what the lake associations in 7LA are constantly doing, is educating people about buffer strips and, all the things that they should or should not be doing. And there are plenty of resources out there. So, again, it's just a constant education of property owners, but also an awareness that unfortunately best practices aren't always enforceable by code enforcement. If they're not code, Hans can't enforce them.
Well, I think there's a difference, Barbara, between folks who live in the homes that they own on the lake and
True.
folks that own the properties just to rent them.
True.
So they're less concerned about the overall quality of the lake, because if that goes to funk, they're gonna sell them beat because they have not set down roots. And I know, it was it 2 years ago that the short-term rentals that you folks brought forward from your road and were requesting at the time that we start looking at putting some parameters down around short-term rentals. And it was met with quite a bit of resistance. But it doesn't mean that it will be met with the same resistance moving forward. Because it really is up to all of us to protect the health of the lakes, whether we live on them or not, because that's the basis for our our tax base, that's the basis for our town. And if we don't have healthy lakes, we don't have tourism, and we don't, life is, we know it will not be the same with our grandchildren. So maybe we do need to shore up some of our own, and, I mean, I'm in full agreement with the fact that, you know, the state may say one thing about a drain, but it isn't best practice. So we maybe do need to shore up our own ordinances, but the other thing that we have to do is the penalties have got to be much more stringent. Because when you have a plumbing violation and the only fine is double the plumbing permit, well, that's nothing. So.
On that point, I totally agree, and I do know quite well that across the state, fines are considered the cost of doing business in towns.
Right.
Like it or not, people will apply, get approved, and if they go above and beyond and get fined, that's okay, you just get a fine.
Right.
So,
Whereas if you go to like Greenville or First Roach Pond, you do something on those lakes you're not supposed to, they will come in and you will remove it. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Well, I agree with you, Melanie, and I think one of the pieces that comes through my mind is if you have a place that is the owner is not using. To me, there's the owner who rents their place occasionally or rents it part-time. And then there are the people who buy a place and rent it 12 weeks in the summer. It's heavily rented. So do we look at those as maybe a change of use? This is no longer a residential property. This is now, the use has changed. And in some of those smaller camps that have not been improved, the septic is designed for one piece, but now they have more people using the septic. So if we have places that are adding bunkhouses or doing things, do we need to upgrade our rules? Our rules have not changed to say, in this situation, you can only have so many bedrooms or bathrooms or whatever, that we look at what has to be there, because that property is very different than my camp that I rent for 3 weeks or rent for the month of August, and I use the month of July. But that will take some getting people, and especially those of you who are living it, to say, let's sit down and see if we can hammer out some of these pieces, because you have to be really careful. Once you make that rule, it applies to all situations. And you need to, look at all of those pieces, but I think it's coming. In towns, I was talking with Barbara, towns that have septic and sewer, that have sewers and water, it doesn't begin to be the problem in Portsmouth. They were having a really hard time with short-term rentals when I was down there, because they were doing in residential areas. But the septic and the water wasn't an issue. It was the quality of life within that community. So we have a different situation, and our lakes are so critical. Our lakes are impaired. We're on the impaired lakes list. So we need to be really, really careful on that. And I think that's something that we can't say, well, let's look at that down the road. I think we need to get concerned people together and be working on it sooner rather than later. And I don't know how we do that, whether we ask the planning board or we put a ad hoc committee together. I don't know the vehicle, and maybe we need to think that through, but I don't think we need to take 4 months to think it through to figure out how to begin to proceed.
Right, and I think the question is, how do we get the ordinances to get closer to the best practices?
Well, we've got to find out where those problems are. So it's gonna take some work, but I think we need to be doing the work.
Yeah. Paul, would you like to say something?
But, Chris,
Paul has his.
sorry,
Paul Thompson.
I'd like to, am I on now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, it's obviously great to hear this sort of discussion taking place. By the way, I live also on the same cove with Rod Johnson. He and I grew up together for the last 75 years or so. And my mother walked up and down that lane that's been blocked off now suddenly for over 90 years to get water from the one well we had there. So this has been a tremendous, unfortunate development, I think, for everybody. But the big picture here is that this has got to stop. if this continues on, there's plenty of people with money now after COVID that are coming north with lots of money, and they'll just buy whatever they feel like. They're absentee, and they're converting these places immediately into commercial properties. It's pretty obvious to see. I'm glad to hear this talk about ordinances. Obviously, short-term rentals and that sort of thing affects everybody. So everybody has some equity there. But at some point, you've got to draw the line. And I really think you should consider a moratorium, even at this point, until however many months it takes. I just heard the word 4 months. This should be done really fast. There's plenty of townships around the country that can give advice on how to do a really binding, sensible short-term rental policy. And a lot of times, if you're in a residential area, you can't even do this sort of rental. So that needs to be thought through very carefully. It's not just the lake, it's our whole way of life that's being affected here. It's extremely serious. And we haven't even talked, I haven't heard talk yet, because that's not on this very narrow topic of lawn down to the water with obvious runoff, but the wetlands is really a major issue. And I appreciate, it's been said a couple of times, you know, we can't wait for the state. Of course we can't wait for the state. We are a township, we know what we want, and we should do it. And if it's way beyond whatever the standard for the state is, so be it. People can go somewhere else if they want to abuse the environment and so forth. So I think this needs to be stopped immediately. There needs to be a very quick team put together. There's plenty of other places that would come tell us what they do. I'd be glad to do the same thing. And we need to have a very coherent plan for how we're going to protect the remaining residential areas and our wetlands. Our wetlands are clearly in jeopardy. My wife and I went over to the township hall there to see what the map looks like you have outside, presumably for us to look at. And we were doing that, and it shows red areas and other designated areas for certain parts of the comprehensive plan. And then, and we had a very nice meeting with Hans, the CEO. He was extremely forthcoming, and I think it was a very productive meeting. But when we were done, he walked by as we were looking at that chart or map, whatever you call it out there, and he said, well, we don't use those three, we just use these three up here. And it's very confusing to folks like us. We're not in the business of following this hourly, but I really think this is the crisis. I call this the crisis. How many more properties we're going to have to watch this happen to? And if it's the same owner who's doing this, there's a clear picture there. Are they going to buy a third house or a fourth house along that same very, very precious coastline or shoreline? Where's this all going to stop? We've already gone beyond where we should have. I think this discussion about getting a nod or a permit and not following up. Somebody mentioned the word gap. There's some major gaps, and someone's got to step forward and take responsibility for that. And I really think I'll finish up by saying we truly are at a crisis now. And if we lose the wetlands that's been there for hundreds of years, if we lose that, then I think we all have to see that we're powerless. I can still remember my mother in tears when we left our little dock to row to the village. She looked over and there was the Hagians development, which had happened while we were all away. The trucks were rolling down, gigantic truck after truck with sand, and they filled in that whole half of the wetlands just in a couple of weeks. And they built houses. And then they brought out these great big bug killers to kill all the wildlife and the bugs that came in, obviously, because they'd been living there for thousands of years. Is the same thing going to happen now on the other side? And where's all that wildlife going to go? At what point are we going to be able to say, we as a community have a standard and we're going to protect that standard and keep it? And otherwise, I wanted to know the word crisis. We are looking at a crisis. So thank you for your time. I've also written a note or a letter, I guess. I hope you're able to get that. And I hope you'll be able to follow some of the recommendations there. And thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We have seen your letter.
Yeah.
And Chris, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to mention that I'm a new member of the Lakes and Natural Resources Committee of the town of Belgrade, and maybe that committee could be part of the of any sort of project that we want to go forward as far as investigating ordinances or whatever. So anyway, just thought I'd mention that.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's a good idea. We have a lot of resources we can tap. So is there anything else that we need to bring up in terms of this matter? Okay, sir?
Yeah, I would highly suggest the creation of an ad hoc committee to look into this in the town. And then they will forward information to the select board, I will suspect. And then the select board will decide we need to, how we have to modify, call the planning board to modify the ordinances. Based on the research that our committee.
Yeah, we have a lot of moving parts. I think we have the Lakes and Natural Resources Committee. We have a comprehensive plan.
We have interested citizens.
We have very interested citizens. So,
We'll look maybe at our next meeting about
what we want to do. Yeah, can we put this on the agenda for the next meeting? We'll all have a chance to talk about it and think about it and to see what makes sense without duplicating the efforts and really concentrating everybody's concerns in a positive way.
And I do think we need to make sure that we have some of the concerned citizens that have brought this
Yeah,
forward on that
Absolutely,
committee.
yeah.
Even if they're not full-time residents.
Sure.
You know, we usually will do full-time residents, but I think we need to keep that in mind.
Peter?
I just also want to make sure that when we do go down this road, that we level set expectations about when it might be realistic to bring revisions to the taxpayers to vote.
Maybe possibly consider a moratorium in the meantime.
We just have to level set expectations, you know. It's important to the town. I guess I would go on to say it's February and November's not that far away.
Right.
I'll say it that way.
Okay, thank you very much for your concern and bringing all these matters to our attention. Appreciate your passion.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
All right. I move we open discussion on annual town meeting warrant articles, finalizing naming articles.
Second.
So Article 13. Want me to read the whole thing?
I think the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Article 13. To see if the town will set Friday, September 6th, 2024 as the date 2024 property taxes are due. The taxes paid after September 6th, 2024, interest will be charged at a rate of blank per annum. Interest will continue until the tax and taxing are paid in full. Additionally, to see if the town will set the interest rate to be paid by the town on taxes paid and later abated at 2% per annum. Interest will accrue from the date of the tax payment to the date the abated amount is refunded to the taxpayer. So the select board has not yet recommended this. We have notes and an update from the attorney. Note the maximum rate allowed by the state of Maine for interest charged is 8.5. The board set the rate at 3.9% in 2023. The TAN bid notice went out February 2nd. The board will have bids to review February 20th. Update from Lee Bragg of Bernstein Sure. Rates are likely to vary by as much as 2 percentage points. There is a high likelihood that any estimate at this point will ultimately prove unsatisfactory to the board. The best approach may be to use the clause below in the warrant and then advise voters at town meeting of the actual rate. The article could be amended at town meeting to specify the rate, although it would not be technically necessary to do so. And the suggestion was after September 6th, 2024, interest will be charged at a rate equal to 1% above the per annum interest rate on the town's tax anticipation note. So the suggested revision of that article from legal counsel is as follows. Article 13. To see if the town will set Friday, September 6th, 2024 as the date 2024 property taxes are due. For taxes paid after September 6th, 2024, interest will be charged at a rate equal to 1% above the per annum interest rate on the town's tax anticipation note. Interest will continue until the tax and tax lien are paid in full. Additionally, to see if the town will set the interest rate to be paid by the town on taxes paid and later abated at 2% per annum. Interest will accrue from the date of the tax payment to the date the abated amount is refunded to the taxpayer. So that's the suggested article from legal counsel.
I like that suggested article.
I'm okay with the suggested article, but next year we need to make sure that we get our tan out ahead of time so that we don't have questions in the annual report.
That's my fault. The past couple of years, they've been done in March, and that was not on my radar so early in the year. I know now that it needs to be done earlier, January.
So,
I like the suggested,
yeah, yeah.
language. It seems very fair.
Well, it does the same thing that we wanted to do anyway, so
Right.
if we had the tan interest, it would be 1% above it, so.
Right.
Precisely.
I mean, it's fine.
Right, okay, so select board recommendation, all in favor? Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, so 5 yeses.
We should leave the budget.
No. We're not spending any money. Okay, Article 32, shall the town vote to increase the property tax levy limit of $1,794,000, sorry, $1,794,329 established for the town of Belgrade by state law in the event that the municipal budget approved in the preceding articles will result in a tax commitment that exceeds that property tax levy limit. Notes, included in your board packet is the LD1 worksheet. Lines 1 to 13 were completed by our assessor, lines 14 and 15 by our treasurer and myself. The tax levy limit is not a negative number, line 15. The 2024 budget has not exceeded the limit of $1,794,329 in line 14. From legal counsel, if there is no chance that the budget will exceed the LD1 tax levy limit, the warrant does not need to include an article to exceed or increase the limit. Some towns like to include it just in case and then vote to pass over the article if it is not needed, but is not required to be on the warrant if it is not needed. No.
So I posed a question this morning because under the calculate growth limitation factor, the top two numbers were the same numbers that we used in 2022. So I had asked for an updated number. And the assessor, I did shoot him a question about that, so he did give me the answer. And he said, when you're calculating your LD1 growth limit, you capture all the new value from new houses, additions, garages, porches, etc. You're looking for just the actual new items in town. Because we changed every value in town in 2023, it is impossible to capture just the new items. So you can use the same calculations as the previous year. It says I go through this every time one of my towns revalue. Actually, it's helpful to Belgrade because we had a very good growth year last year. So that's the reason for using the 2022 numbers. And I wondered if that was part of it because we had done the across the board reval. So that is his explanation. And the other part was that he says he's not responsible for these numbers. He's only plugged them in. It's not his job. So he reiterates that that is not his responsibility. So if there's an error, it is not Rob's. But I appreciated that explanation on why that number was the same. And that being said, if we don't exceed LD1, I'm okay if we don't have that article in at all because we don't need it.
Right.
So I make a motion that we don't include that article.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Okay. in favor of action Article 32. Which means everything subsequently is gonna have to be renumbered. Article 34, to see if the town agrees to add coverage under regular plan AC for its full-time general government employees and appointed officials effective April 1, 2024. The town will allow general government employees and appointed officials who join effective April 1, 2024 to purchase credit for past employment with the town for prior service. Close bracket. The town will share in the purchase of prior service credit for these employees based on the original cost provided to employees by Maine PERS if the employee completes the purchase of their portion of the cost by March 31, 2026, or the date they terminate employment with the town, whichever is sooner. Employees are responsible for any interest that accrues on the original cost provided by Maine PERS. The town will not share in the purchase of prior service for any eligible employee who has not completed the purchase of their portion of the original cost for their prior service by March 31, 2026, or by the date they terminate employment with the town, whichever is sooner. The town authorizes and directs the select board to determine how much the town will contribute toward the purchase of each eligible employee's prior service at its next meeting, and directs the select board to provide that information to each eligible employee and to Maine PERS by the end of the business day immediately following that meeting. The town will continue to provide special plan 3C to its full-time firefighters and emergency medical services employees. The limited period open enrollment provision the town adopted upon joining Maine PERS will apply to all Maine PERS eligible employees. All other employees, including elected officials, are excluded from participation at this time. The town of Belgrade authorizes either the town manager or the select board chair to sign the amended agreement between the town and Maine Public Employees Retirement System. And we had previously approved this with the stipulation of after 60 days. I think that's why there's a change. Because the note is Deanna Doyle suggests removing the after 60 days and moving as is. If the board wishes to help pay interest, we would need to stipulate interest that accrues between 31 to 59 days. So I should read that sentence again. Employees are responsible for any interest that accrues on the original cost provided by Maine PERS. Originally it was after 60 days. But the way it's written now, taking out after 60 days, then employees are responsible for any interest that accrues from the beginning.
Right, because the first 30 days are free anyway.
Right, the first 30 days are free. So if we want to give another month, then we would need to stipulate interest that accrues between 31 to 59 days.
Right.
So would it be okay to take that and just replace after 60 days with what's in the single quote?
Yes,
Yes.
interest that accrues between 31 to 59 days. If we want to do that, then that obligates the town to interest for another month.
But we're only obligated for interest for 1 month.
Right.
I think my feeling at the last meeting is that once we start this, that would allow people 60 days to, without paying interest themselves. 30 days free, 30 days the town would pay if they could. After that, their own obligation, but just gives them more than 30 days, which seems, even though they may know it's coming, to really get money together or move it from one to the other. So I'm in favor of putting the interest that accrues between 31 and 59 days in.
I have no objection to that. I think it's a fair approach.
Yes, I'm okay with it. I've got a couple little pieces of the subject.
Do you have any questions you want to bring up?
Not about that particular one, but it's to see if the town agrees to add coverage, so add looks like it would be in addition to, so we would actually, according to our conversation earlier, we're looking to replace coverage. So it wouldn't be in addition to, it would be in place of. And I don't know that the town will continue to provide special plan 3C has any bearing in this warrant article. Because this doesn't have anything to do with the fire department. So we're looking to add coverage and then we're putting a clarification in there, like, just in case, you guys already have it,
That can't change.
it can't change. So that, I don't know that that is necessary at all.
So do you think we should just strike like that sentence? You know,
Barbara?
3/4 of the way down, or say,
Oh, Lorna,
I don't think that.
I think Lorna has the comment.
So this is the language that Maine PERS provided and our legal counsel also reviewed. We are adding coverage because Plan 3C is in place, so we are already offering and have that relationship with Maine PERS. So we're adding coverage to what we already offer. We're not replacing because Plan 3C stays in place no matter what. It's a different plan.
7 does,
So we're adding coverage. We're not replacing
but
coverage.
we're replacing the 457 plan for new employees.
But this doesn't.
But that's a separate, that's a
This
separate
doesn't
article.
have anything to do with the 457.
But isn't that a separate article? Isn't there a related
No.
article?
That
No,
would,
no.
that would be employment agreements. That would-
This,
That would be. in our
this doesn't have
contract.
anything to do with the 457.
Pretty sure we had that wording when we did the fire department.
Yes, and
I mean, if this is what Maine PERS said they require, then I think we should go with what
So
they're
then we
telling
had to
us.
go back and redo it.
Right. Oh, I remember we did, didn't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're pretty.
because our article
particular
did not
about
include what they wanted. So then we had to go back and do another article at the next, either town meeting or.
That's right. Yeah.
To get it to go into effect. Maine PERS didn't tell us that.
Yeah.
So after the fact, when we sent the article, they said that doesn't meet what we want.
so to avoid that confusion, let's keep it in. And we'll cover.
And so the question, oh, sorry, Bruce,
Just one question, so if the voters vote this down, I'm not saying they're doing it, but if the voters vote this down, it does not affect the fire department's retirement, correct?
Not at all.
Okay, that's
That's
the
a
question I had.
separate.
Separate.
Yeah,
plan.
okay,
Yep.
as long as that doesn't affect it.
Yep.
Adding to
Right.
state retirement,
Right.
we already have a,
Just want to verify.
I bet, wow, it's maybe in Palmer.
right. So we have to decide two things. One is, do we want to pay interest for, for up to 59 days, between 31 and 59 days,
I'm in favor.
to help employees?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
I'm in favor of that.
okay. So the language would read, employees are responsible for any interest that accrues on the original cost provided by Maine PERS.
Interest that accrues between 31 and 59.
Interest that, okay, yeah, I'm just trying to think of where that goes now.
Isn't it where it take off after 30 days?
After 60
After
days.
60 days?
Removing 60 days and moving it is, if we want to pay interest, we need to stipulate interest that accrues between 31 and 59 days. So that needs to get stuck in there somewhere. Interest that accrues between, so it would be in that
Between
sentence.
31 to 59 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would read, employees are responsible for any interest that accrues between but how are we, if the employees are responsible for between
No,
31
we're
and
saying we'll-
59 days, how
We're
does,
saying we'll pay it from 31, 59.
right,
Everything after
where does that go?
59.
So
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Employee complete suppression.
I can have Deanna write it. Or insert it and send me the final warrant article that they approve.
Right, because we don't want the employees to be responsible, we want the town. Employees are responsible for the interest that accrues after 60 days. I don't understand why that.
Employee's responsible.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you almost could just leave after 60 days.
Yeah, if you
Why
leave
not
after
just
60
leave?
days, isn't that the same thing? Isn't that what we're trying to do?
Yeah.
So leave after 60 days?
Yeah, employees are responsible for any interest that accrues on the original cost provided by main purse after 60 days. So the town
Is responsible.
is responsible for up through day 59.
Right.
Because otherwise I don't understand where that interest that
Interest
accrues
right.
between 31 and 59 days. Where that would
Is
go.
it because there's no stipulation in there that says the town will pay that interest?
Oh, I'd say we still let's send it back to main pros and have them insert it with what we want.
Right.
These have to be finalized tonight, we're supposed to print next week. So we don't have time to come back and have them.
Well, we can approve it
We
with
can-
them inserting the language where they want it.
Right. We can improve the
I mean,
intent
it's,
to,
we know what we want for language, as long as they put it in there where they want it. we're
right.
good.
So you want to cover the employee even though it's no interest the first 30 days?
Right.
You want to go up to 60 days that the town is responsible then
Yeah,
after
the
that?
second
right,
30 days, the
59,
second 30 days we pay, after
Okay.
60 days, we don't pay.
Okay,
Right.
Right.
Okay.
But then the other question is authorizes town manager or select board chair.
So just have it come to the select board for us to sign.
I think so too.
Okay.
I was sitting at the Pulse last night going through past annual reports, and it is important that the board be the signees. Because we're the ones that it's gonna come back to. 25 years ago, you said yes to us.
So the board of select persons.
Yes.
So I'll make that motion that we amend it with the select board signature and that we pay the interest between 30 and 60 days. We'll let main pers insert the language where it needs to be.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, so far, yes. So that overrides the 3 and 2 recommendation. All right,
Yes. Mhm.
Actually, let's just think of the same.
Okay, should we take a 5-minute break? 2-minute break,
Okay.
2.5-minute break?
Second.
Amy?
Yes.
All in favor?
All in favor, yes, good. Okay, so you're on to Article 35.
Article 35.
Shall the town create a special fund for the purchase of credit of municipal employees' past employment with the town? Authorize the select board to make an agreement with the employees regarding how the town will share on the cost for this purchase in the Maine State Retirement System, Maine PERS, and let the unexpended balance of this fund fall to the undesignated account. Previously, the select board voted 3 in favor, 2 absent. Notes, at its January 23 meeting, the board voted to set the estimated amount of $162,000 from undesignated funds into a special fund for the purchase of sharing in the cost of buyback for eligible employees. In addition, the board voted to allow 90 days of buyback that the town will pay interest. Employees have 2 years to buy back. In addition, the board voted to allow 90 days of buyback that the town will pay interest. Employees have 2 years to buy back, sorry. After 90 days, the interest due is the responsibility of the employee. Updated information from Maine PERS on 1/31/24 reduces the town's portion to $151,094.50 from the estimated $162,000 figure above. This does not include interest after 30 days. So Lorna spoke with legal counsel on the wording of the original article, and Phil has provided the following. Phil, our attorney. Article 35, shall the town create a special reserve fund for the purpose of funding the town's share in the purchase of prior service credit for employees' past employment with the town under Maine PERS pursuant to Article 34, appropriate blank amount to be transferred to the funds from the undesignated account, authorize the select board to expend funds for this purpose as it deems appropriate, and let the unexpended balance of this fund fall to the undesignated account after March 31, 2026.
Yeah, and the only, I'm in favor of, the only correction, I think it should say appropriate the amount, 151,094, to be transferred to the fund, plural, it's not funds.
Fun.
Fine,
I picked up on that as.
Yeah, has an extra S,
One S.
okay,
yeah, to the fund from the undesignated account.
right, because it's going into the special reserve.
And then
fund.
it'll just go back to the undesignated account if people don't take advantage of it. First, that's okay.
Bruce,
The only thing about the 151, it doesn't include any interest for the third 30 days.
mhm.
So,
Oh, right, so it would be a little higher.
right, so I don't know what to put in there for calculation.
Right.
Why don't we just use the 162?
Yeah, so that's gonna suggest is,
Well, we
Just stay
never
for
have, we
162.
never have $11,000 in interest.
No.
I mean, do
But
one
it's not like the
fifty-five.
money's going in.
The money's not going anywhere, that's right.
Whatever left over is gonna get put right back in the general fund at the
Right.
end of this anyway,
Yeah,
so.
So you want to stick with 162?
To me, I don't think it's gonna make a big difference if we just stick with that.
mhm.
Didn't
I-
notice your notes are wrong,
I know.
because the notes talking about 90 days.
Yeah.
Well, we originally talked 90 and then we changed it to 60. Yeah,
Right, okay, so the notes should be 60.
yeah,
But the note doesn't go on the article anywhere.
No,
right. So I move that we approve Article 35 by appropriating 162,000 to be transferred to the fund, singular, from the undesignated account as written here.
Second. Any more discussion? In favor, Melanie? Peter?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yeah.
I'll vote yes, so 5 yeses.
budget committee, Gary. 3 yeses, 3 absent. Yeah, she's gone. She's gone. Oh, she's gone. Yeah.
Oh, Sarah, she's in, with us.
Oh,
Oh, well. Okay, Article 38, shall the town vote
Hold
to?
on just a minute, if they're still there, they don't have a quorum to vote.
Oh, okay.
And you're gonna.
Just vote yes.
What article is it? I
Article,
was here waiting for that, and you guys were doing all this stuff, so, well, probably I didn't know, I didn't need to be at the meeting.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah, I remember it. This is yes, yes.
okay,
okay.
4 yeses.
4 yeses.
so 4 yeses and
And 2 absent,
2
Thank
absent.
you.
or 3 absent.
More.
2, there's 6, there's 6.
Yeah.
All right. One more, Sarah, don't go away.
No, I'm just relocating myself.
Article 38, shall the town vote to establish a non-lapsing benefit reserve account for the purpose of paying accrued benefits when employment is terminated with the town, appropriate blank X amount of money to be transferred to the account from the undesignated account, authorize the select board to expend funds for this purpose as it deems appropriate. As previously discussed at some budget meetings and at the suggestion of one of our board of select persons, this article is offered for review and consideration to add to the annual town meeting warrant. Legal counsel provided the correct wording.
Although I think you need an and
Yeah,
between account and authorize, right?
appropriate the money and
And
from an
rather than
undesignated
a
account
comma.
and authorize the select board to expend funds.
All right,
So,
this was not approved.
and I think we could put, if you did 31,000, fine. Because not everyone's gonna leave all at once. Unless you want to use it lower amount.
A lower amount, 20,000.
I mean, I'm comfortable if you want to use 20, I just feel.
I mean, not everybody's gonna leave all.
Yeah,
at once.
again, we're
Let's
not
hope.
raising it in taxes, we'll take it from one account and stick it in another one for now.
uh,
It's
Don't
just
do
an
it for the
insurance
whole
policy.
amount.
Right, the money's still there.
So
Let's use the 31, round it up to 31.
for 30. Okay, 31. 31,
Okay.
everybody okay with 31? Which is the maximum if everybody leaves.
Everyone leaves all at once. right
Don't
away.
get any ideas.
We're not behaving. Okay. So I move we approve Article 31 using 31,000, I mean 38 with 31,000 as the dollar amount and adding the word "and" after designated account.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, so 5 yeses.
Budget committee, Sarah?
Yes,
Yes. 4, 2 absent.
Article 39. Shall the town approve an update to the town's cemetery ordinance, which was last amended in 2023? And the note says this article was voted upon previously with the review of the cemetery ordinance at your January 23 meeting. At that meeting, the board requested some updates. The committee made those and has provided an updated copy for your review and consideration. So the main issue was,
Rewording some of them.
rewording a little bit and asking for the fee schedule to be recommendations made to the Board of Select Persons who have the authority to make changes. That's one of the main changes, right? The other ones were more just housekeeping, or is there anything else that was changed substance?
You wanted the sexton, assistant sexton, kept flowing through the whole ordinance, and it wasn't.
Bill, I went through and found some where it should be like a semicolon instead of a comma and you know, sort of punctuation ones, but one that I did have was they're talking about the burial lots, and it says
What number?
well, it's on the 4th page, 3rd page in, under 2, town section, assistant section. The bottom line in section B. And it says, the sexton/assistant sexton will assure that all grave sites are properly marked with a suitable temporary marker indicating the deceased name and date buried. Is that date of birth or date of death? Date of death, so that would need to go in there. So, do we need to go through the punctuation ones, or can I just give those to Lorna?
We can just take it there and fix it.
Okay. And there was one other section question I had, that was just, it seemed to be so we keep going over it to number 9, which is towards the end. And it says, under interments, the second sentence says, now, the town clerk, sexton, and assistant sexton will approve all grave openings. Does it need all 3, or should there be an "or" there instead of "and"?
All 3 of them have to be involved because we have to make sure that the lot's been paid for.
So,
It is.
so the clerk and the sexton and the assistant sexton have to approve all grave openings?
And or the sexton and the assistant.
Should be "and/or," right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that. See, I did my homework. I read the whole thing.
Good girl.
And then there is on 9.2, there's a duplicate of no synthetic or polystyrene vaults will be allowed for full casket burials. It's just a duplicate line, because you also
Wasn't it
have it on
crossed out?
page 2.
Was it crossed out, Carol, or not?
No,
No.
so 9.2, when you have it over on, I think, page 2 of this,
Should only be one.
should only be one. So we should just make that correction. Okay. Lorna, you got that? And then I think the other was just a couple of that was a question I had that Lorna was able to answer. Okay, I think that's it that I had.
So the cost, the cemetery pricing is going from 300 to 400 and then 550 to 800. So these costs are going to be in here. And then just to review that language, that gives the select board the authority. That was on 13.6, cemetery fee schedule for the purchase of cemetery lots, spaces and associated burial services shall be reviewed every 2 years by the cemetery committee. All recommendations for changes shall be made to the board of select persons who will have the authority to make changes to the cemetery fee schedule. So we're changing the fee schedule in this one, but also giving the select board the authority to change them in the future.
Well, we don't have to
recommendation of the
redo the
center.
ordinance every time.
Do you have to have 2 years? What if you look at it next year and you want to recommend a change to the select?
Well, in the ordinance, it says that the cemetery committee will review it every 2 years. Review the whole ordinance.
Okay, doesn't mean that you can't change it
Gotcha.
in a year.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
makes sense.
The only question that we would like to have is the cemetery committee would like to have, some input on changing the pricing, which is fine. We've got it written so they're acceptable to both of us.
So Mike, it actually does say, though, in this ordinance that cemetery fee schedules shall be reviewed every 2 years.
Yeah.
So do you want to strike, because the ordinance, there's also a section that says the ordinance will be reviewed every 2 years. But do you want to keep the same provision in there for the cemetery fee schedule? Okay,
We're still very low in Kennebec County compared to other cemeteries.
well, that's what I mean, is what if next year you're like, oh crap, we still didn't go
Well,
over that.
we've increased it the last 2 years, so I think enough is enough for them.
Okay.
Well, and there's nothing that says you can't review it
Right,
sooner than 2 years, right?
right.
Okay.
This is just requiring you to do it every 2 years.
You're right. So I move we approve the cemetery ordinance as corrected.
I think we already did.
Didn't?
No, but there's more tonight.
Oh, the more of us tonight. So, okay,
More.
let's go ahead. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
And there are more corrections.
And then more corrections. Okay, fine.
And you're gonna make sure, thanks with your corrections, make sure that.
Right, I talked to Lorna today and gave them to her.
I've got a marked up copy, so I'll give this, Mary, I'll give this to you Thursday.
Okay, so I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, Dan, Carol,
Mhm.
Peter,
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
All vote yes, so 5 yeses.
As long as we're not redoing this whole thing again next year.
Okay.
Okay. Move we open discussion on the animal control officer contract.
No, Article
Oh,
4.
we got our.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. Skip ahead. Wait,
Thank you, Gary.
Yep, thanks, Gary. Thanks.
Have a nice evening.
okay, Article 40, shall an ordinance entitled Town of Belgrade Ordinance prohibiting loitering and camping in and on public streets, public places, or municipal buildings be enacted? Legal counsel has provided the included draft ordinance for the board's review and consideration. There are some suggested edits marked.
Areas, municipal building scratched out in red.
Well, at first, it looked like it was a duplicate, but I think he's trying to differentiate between grounds of a building or a building. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about in the second paragraph?
Yeah.
B, and
Well, I mean, I prefer to have it both, considering the name of the ordinance as municipal buildings.
Right, but it's, if you read before it, it's a little misleading because you have to be sure to read grounds of any municipal building or any municipal building. It looks like a duplicate, but it's not. Right,
Yeah, it's not.
it's not, so it should
So
stay.
somebody can't come
We
in,
should
do
keep
a
that in.
Agreed.
go to sleep.
I know, right.
Well,
So that should stay.
There are some places.
Thank you, Bill, thank you, Monique.
Thank you.
So it's the grounds of any municipal building or any municipal building.
Right.
So
So it's not a duplicate.
And maybe it should say
My bad.
or municipal cemetery
I'm like.
instead of and. Maybe an or. Or,
It's either and or just the comma, it's comma.
right, yeah, could you just
I'm
take
not,
those out?
I'm not an English major, so.
Take the and out.
Take the municipal building in and leave and out,
Just have a comma,
comma.
take
Yeah.
and out.
Well, the rest of it looked,
Yeah, those are.
looked like it picked up the things we wanted. The rec vehicles and
And now if I'm missing it, under that list of locations, that one doesn't have public parks.
I was just going there. I was like, are we missing the kind of?
That's the main reason I don't want to fence.
Right, where do you wanna put that in the
Well,
list?
just listed.
Anywhere,
you could put public
sidewalk, comma, public park, or, right?
Well, or I would put public cemetery park, then put park.
It doesn't matter.
It
As long as
doesn't
it's in
matter,
there.
as long as it's in one.
Any other town control or maintain property would,
Yeah, but that's the whole main reason.
right, yeah,
So we don't want to use that set of fence down the peninsula park.
right, absolutely.
Okay, so
We have
then.
neighbors.
Huh? I don't need any new neighbors, thank you very much. I have enough neighbors.
Okay. So do we need to do anything with this? Should
Yeah, we
we
need to.
re-vote on this so that we can have 5?
Well, we need to revote because we changed the wording.
Change the wording.
So I move we approve Article 40 with the changes we discussed, including adding public parks to the list there under section B.
I'll second that.
All in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Lori? All vote yes, so 5 yeses. Okay. Move on to animal control officer.
We have a new contract.
Oh, there's a different one. So there's one on our desks that's. an
Yeah, this is the updated one on your desk.
The one with all the holes.
Yes.
Yes.
They look all close.
Okay.
Under the second paragraph, the term of employment, should it be runs from January 1, 2024 to December 31st?
Contain that, absolutely.
In the paragraph, it says where it says add here. Also, the work log will report all mileage and hours owed. Is that where we want to specify the rate?
No, because up above we
It's
said what the
specified
rate
up above.
is.
What is the add here for?
It means we're adding that in.
Oh,
So
so
we
she's
add
an
and
additional.
hours.
Oh, and hours.
And
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
It's added.
I'm sorry. So we're adding the hour and hours.
Correct.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Where it says the ACO work log is due by 9 AM. Email to the treasurer instead of an at sign there, because that might make, should we just spell out at? Because otherwise
Yeah,
it might be a little confusing.
and you, I did look at it, like, that's a different email.
I had a question about that same line. It says that it can be faxed to the treasurer.
We still fax.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to get rid of the fax line here, but they.
Yeah, we need it.
All right.
We have to have it.
Just want to make sure to ask.
There's another at sign. I've made a note to write that one out. It's-
Oh, the treasurer asks,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, for the phone number?
for the phone number, yeah.
But the one with the email address would stay.
Right, correct. Yes, we want to do that.
Right, yeah. Like, second page should be the select board listed here.
Yep.
For the appointment.
Yep. What did you just say, Dan?
The second page where you get the line about the appointment, it should say, instead of the line, it should say select board. Appointed by the select board.
Yes.
So it just said appointed by.
But under main statute from, I have this in my MMA notebook. For the town manager shall appoint, supervise, and control all town officials whom the municipal officers are required by law to appoint.
We do the appointing of the ACOs. On the town clerk and everyone says unless you give that permission to the town manager, there's no reason for us to do so.
So what other positions do we appoint? We appoint
Annually,
everything?
we appoint all of them. Mary's town clerk report comes to us where she lists the clerks and the deputies,
Road commission.
road commissioner. It's our job. We just do it.
Code enforcement. Fire chief. So,
But if we want to dissect it, we can do it.
Right.
If we want to go back and look at it, then go
So, any questions on this? This line registry?
it's written out the way we have.
Tracy has a question?
Tracy?
So, I'm just looking at the version. Am I looking at the same version you guys are looking at right now? That's
Yes.
online?
Yeah.
Okay, so remember
the one I
those two
sent
little
over to
things
you?
that you and
Yeah.
I,
This one, no, so no, what you see online is because you updated. Here, give me a second.
it's right here, it should be stipend.
See, stipend,
Yes, good,
and, in addition.
perfect. Okay, so this one's just wrong.
That was uploaded before these changes were made.
Yep. Okay, so
Make a motion to approve that one.
make motion to approve the contract.
You,
Do we have
Yeah.
a second one
Second.
here for the deputy?
We don't have a
It's the
deputy.
same, they're both just cold. Or however many we have, it's cold.
Okay, so
So I second the,
you second it.
I second it.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of accepting the contract, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Okay, so 5 in favor of accepting. the contract.
Okay.
And I did put a question out this morning, because when I was on our website, we have listed a job available for the animal control officer.
I looked and I didn't see it. Where is it on the
It's
list?
not attached to the top if you go to employment, and it's new, and it says at the
That's
town.
below, yeah. I'll make a note to pull it.
Okay.
All right, under new business. Move that we open discussion of appointments and resignations.
Second.
So, under appointments, we have Dan Seglinski.
I make a motion that we table the appointment of Dan Seglinski to the next meeting.
Yeah, he might have gotten confused because originally the comprehensive planning committee was gonna come to present tonight. No, he must have thought, since that was postponed, that his appointment was going to be postponed too.
Okay, so I'll just make a motion, we table
Okay.
it until he.
Second.
All in favor of tabling, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Carol?
Yeah.
Dan?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, 5 yeses in favor of table. Okay, and we have Jeff Worthing, reappointment as animal control officer.
I second that.
Do you wish to be reappointed? Right. Let's go first.
You moved.
No.
I thought you moved it when you read it, so I seconded it.
Oh, sorry.
So
Um,
I think we have a move in a second.
Move in a second, okay, so we just need to vote. All in favor, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Okay, and waiting for Tracy Malloy. Reappointment as animal controls.
Any motion?
I move that we reappoint.
I will second that. And I'll follow Dan. Do you want to be reappointed?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll abstain.
Reason for abstaining. You have to give a reason because it has to be,
Oh.
you either have to vote yes or no, or unless it's a personal matter. So,
I have some questions I'd like to have answered in executive session,
yeah, so it's either yes or no, but
so no. Okay, Delta. I'm sorry you had to sit through all this. You didn't know how long this night was going to be.
That's okay. Thank you for having me. I won't try to couple of it. So my name is Chris Mitchell. I'm the new executive director for Delta. Tim Beals was the previous director. He resigned, announced his resignation in October of last year after 27 years. I stepped in as acting director in November and was officially appointed last week. So a lot of what I'm bringing to you right now, and some of the changes that were emailed to you guys is kind of
make the analogy with drinking through a fire hose for myself. So a lot of this was new information to me and trying to share some of the transparency so you can understand where the company is right now and where we're headed. So Delta's a not-for-profit corporation. It's been around since 1972. We currently have it's a 13-seat board of directors. 8 of those seats are made up by 2 hospital systems that initially started Delta. So there's 4 representatives from the general, 4 representatives from North Lake Inland, and there's 5 community seats. Currently, we have people on the board that are town managers, some of them just citizens from the towns that we represent. One of those seats, I have to correct the slide, one of those seats is currently open. And if anyone's interested in sitting on the board of directors, they just need to let me know. So currently we cover 13 towns. About 500 square miles of territory between Smithfield kind of the one end and then Whitefield at the opposite end. Last year we ran about 9,700 calls, which is down pretty substantially from where we were years ago, which goes into some of the background of what I want to talk about. But back up to when I started at Delta back in 2014, we had about 120, 130 employees, many of whom were per diem, but we had a pretty good number that were full-time. At that point, we were also running about 20,000-ish calls per year. And we were billing for, we were billing for about 17,000 of those, 17 to 18,000 depending. Since then, we've shrunk pretty substantially. We're currently at 81 employees. That's including all the administrative staff, full-time employees, per diem employees, wheelchair staff, it's everybody company-wide. But our call volume has also shrunk quite substantially. Our infrastructure was sized for 1,20,000 calls. We're running about half of that right now. And there's a few reasons for that. Basically back in, well, the pandemic started in 2020. So prior to that, staffing was always an issue for most EMS services across the state. Staffing became a very big issue in 2020 when the pandemic started. Where we normally had a level of attrition for people coming and going. We'd have people that come in as EMTs and then stay with us for a couple of years, and then they go on to nursing school and PA school and what have you. That level of attrition continued, but what stopped was all the incoming people. The school stopped the programs completely, and then for a long time, even when the programs were kind of getting back in session, the students couldn't do their clinical time. So basically, everything stalled for about 2.5 years, which hurt every agency in the state pretty severely. So what happened was, right around 2020, everyone started this wage war. There was a finite pool of field providers, and everyone started to compete to try to maintain their staff and recruit staff. So what happened was this progressive increase in wages that went across the state. And it pushed a lot of services kind of beyond the breaking point, including Delta. Prior to the pandemic, in 2019, we used to have 15 towns. Winslow started their own service. Waterville followed suit the year after that. We lost a little bit of call volume with that. And then that combined with the wages going up for trying to recruit and maintain staffing. And then operational costs that just went through the roof over the last few years. Between fuel, insurance, payroll is the biggest part of our budget, and that's what really hurts the most. I'm kind of rushing through some of this, so if anyone has any questions along the way, please let me know. I'm trying to keep my pace in the slides here because I'll go off on a tangent if I'm not too careful. So for the town of Belgrade, last year we had 324 runs that were dispatched, and that's not entirely matches. That won't entirely match with the number of patient contacts we made. This is more representative of the number of resources we allocated. So this might reflect us sending 2 trucks or something, 3 trucks to the same call. But we had 324 runs that were dispatched. Out of those, we had 94 that were not transport. I'll explain why that's a significant number later on. So we transported 230 patients out of the town of Belgrade. So it's about 29% of the calls that we responded to did not wind up in a transport scenario, which is pretty average. So between cancellations and patient refusals and a few other scenarios, there's a list of reasons why we might not transport a patient. Why that's important though is that those are the patients those are the calls that we can actually bill for. We are not allowed to, or at least for 2023, we weren't allowed to bill for anything but patient transport. So the two things we can bill for are mileage and what they call the base rate. So the base rate is basically what comprises everything we do for the patient within a certain category. So for example, if we do, splints and ice packs, that falls into what they call basic life support category. And then if we do more advanced interventions, it scales up a little bit and then it becomes in the ALS1 and then ALS2, those are advanced life support categories. So those can include things like starting IVs, giving medications, doing cardiac interventions. Those are the things that we can bill for. And each of those base rates has a certain amount that's set by Medicare. We have no control over that. Beyond the base rate, we can bill for loaded mileage. So when we don't bill for, we're not allowed to bill for the mileage going to the scene. It's only when we pick the patient up and bring him to the hospital. So when we're looking at our overall volume and we say that we're losing or we're not able to bill for approximately 25 to 30% of the calls we're responding to, that impacts our budget pretty substantially. And that's pretty much true across the board. So if we looked at all 13 towns that we're currently serving, we're seeing about an average of about 25 to 30% per town. And that does impact that impacts our finances quite a bit.
Is there any change coming in that?
There is.
We're working on it.
You're changing the billing, you mean, or changing?
Change of being able to bill for the no transports?
Yeah, so in 2024, commercial carriers are required to pay for some no transports. It's not a blanket rule. There's certain conditions and our financial director was gonna meet us here tonight, but she was ill and couldn't attend. She could probably answer the question a little bit better. It's a new rule that just became effective in January. So it will improve things a little bit. I don't know to what degree, though, probably not a lot. But so for our base rates and mileage, that's kind of the bread and butter of what we're actually will generate revenue off of. And beyond that, we don't generate revenue. Just give me 1 second, I think I lost my train of thought here. So base rates and mileage, I'm sorry. So Medicare sets the base rates for everything. And commercial insurance carriers basically follow suit. What confuses a lot of people is when you look at an ambulance bill, a lot of times it's very, very high. And it's not reflective at all about what we're actually getting, what we're collecting back from the bill. The reason being, and I think it's on one of the slides later on, but there's something called a contractual adjustment that we have to do. So right now, Delta has, any EMS service can do this, but if we were to contract with a commercial insurance carrier, they may have a contract with it that says, we'll pay you a certain amount above the Medicare rate. So what we have to do is we have to adjust all our prices to match whatever they're gonna pay us. So it winds up being an artificial high. If we look at our entire patient population, the vast majority of the patients that we transport don't have those insurance carriers. So when we set our bill up high to capture the one or two insurance companies they're paying us a little bit more than what Medicare is, most of our patients aren't subscribing to those insurance policies. So basically our prices are set artificially high to catch those, but we don't actually see that. What this breaks down to is roughly we lose about 48 to 50% of our revenue right off the bat from contractual adjustments, and we lose another small percentage due to write-offs. So roughly we collect about half of what we actually bill for. So if we were to bill for $8 million, we see about $4 million of that. And that's pretty true of any EMS service across the state, across the country. That's just the way the insurance companies, how they work. So going back about 10 years ago, before our call volume took a dip and before operational costs went sky high, we were in a much better balance. Over the years, however, between losing the call volume and operational costs that went up, we essentially developed an uncorrected deficit over the last few years. We did have, at one point, we had a pretty substantial cushion, and we had a reserve, and we were able to draw off of that to kind of get us through. However, at the end of last year, when I was stepping in, I realized that we did not have that reserve anymore, which is the direct explanation for why some of these changes with the per capita rates and some other changes are happening at kind of a rapid, drastic rate. We just don't have the reserve to absorb those losses anymore.
Can I just ask a question? Because when Tim was here last year.
Yep.
The explanation that we were given for $15 per capita.
Yeah.
Was that was creating essentially that reserve account to be drawn from.
The numbers that I see right now don't reflect that. So roughly, we're looking at about an $8 million budget or generating revenue, somewhere between 5 and 5.5. So it's a pretty substantial gap that we're seeing per year. The $15 per capita, when our board of directors approved that, from my understanding, was, and people laugh at me when I say it this way, but I think this is true to a point. I think it was more of like an introductory rate. It was a step in the right direction, but it was, quite honestly, it was far too low to actually put a significant dent in what our budget gap was.
I was trying to find our PowerPoint from last year, because it was it 400,000 seems to be sticking out at me, like what it was going to across all of the
It
municipalities.
was 624,000 and change, yeah, so in that
So
neighborhood.
that's going, and that's going from 0 to 50. So
Correct.
we're low estimating, and that was a,
It was a big,
that was a big kick.
correct, and that was, I think that was the driving force between why they initiated at 15 instead of a higher number. I think it was because of the fact that it was going from 0 for 50 years to something, July of last year.
See why we're struggling with 25.
I do, I'm very sensitive.
Finish this field, but yeah.
Yeah,
A
no,
lot of other towns paying a lot more money than that.
No, I am very sensitive to the fact that it's going up so steeply. What we're looking at, unfortunately, is we don't have the ability to absorb any more loss. Last year, we were looking at about $200,000 per month loss, and that was with the current subsidies that we're experiencing right now. We don't have the reserve to sustain that. Which is why why we set the 25 for this year. There's a longer term plan. I know that's everyone's question. Where's it gonna go from here? Before I get to that, I just want everyone to know that we did look internally pretty dry. We had a few emergency sessions back in October, November to look and see what we could actually recover on our own budget before we went and started asking for money anywhere else. So we have made some administrative changes. We've lost 4 senior administrative positions over the last couple of years. That's kind of been in development, which are not being refilled. But right now, we're basically what I would consider kind of a bare bones support staff. If we were to cut back on any more staffing or any services, we wouldn't be able to provide the service level that we are right now. Between dispatch and education and some of the administrative staff and billing, it all kind of goes into it. So if we were to draw any more off of that, it would impact our operations. We did look at outsourcing a few of the services we do provide. We looked at outsourcing billing, we looked at outsourcing dispatch. We actually found that it wasn't cost effective like we thought it was going to be. And it would present some operational challenges internally if we were to do that anyway, but the numbers actually didn't add up for doing that. So where it's headed, is honestly, it's kind of a moving target right now. So I was able to kind of establish a range of what it could be, based on our current gap. And I don't actually think that's on this slide, but let me double check myself. Right, okay. On the very last slide, it says what that range is. And I realize that the far extreme is not a realistic number for anyone. This is simply looking at our budget, what it is right now, what we think it's going to be, and what we need to break even. At the high end of that, it's in the 7, which I realize is a very drastic jump from the current 15 per capita. That's not something that we intend to actually see. That just kind of reflects, that's the one end of the spectrum to provide a reference.
This is, you're talking about the last
The
page,
very
we
last
have
page.
projections.
Yeah, I skipped ahead a little bit.
Okay.
So that's the far extreme of what it could be. Like I said, I understand that that's not going to be sustainable for the towns any more than it will be for us. So realistically, what I expect, and this is something that's in development, is this concept kind of came about over the last year or so. Is right now Delta provides services to essentially two different operations. We provide 911 coverage to 13 towns. We also provide inter-facility transfer services to 2 hospital systems locally. The division of what we provide as far as call volume goes is almost a 50-50 split right down the middle. It's about, give or take, 4,700 calls per side. So looking at that, we can't say that our entire budget gap has to fall on the towns or should fall on the towns, because there's another component to our operation that you guys aren't liable for. So that's a conversation right now that's actively in process. So as soon as I have an answer for that, I'll be able to narrow down what that target amount is likely to be by next year. I'm hoping it's probably going to be somewhere down either the high 30s or low 40s, but I don't think it's going to be any lower than that. We did also look at, some what if scenarios about what if we completely got rid of our transfer operations, and we just went to 911s and focused just on the 911 side of our thing, our company and covered the towns. That was able to reduce some overhead costs. But actually the best cost benefit was to keep both sides. If we were to get rid of our transfer operations and just maintain 911, the per capita fell somewhere in the 50s or 60s. And the reason is, are you guys familiar with the Blue Ribbon Commission finding? So the Blue Ribbon Commission's, oh, there we go.
I sit on it.
There we go. So what the Blue Ribbon Commission found, the biggest takeaway here is that survival of an EMS service is basically dependent on the combination of call volume and subsidy. So services with lower call volumes require more of a subsidy. Services with higher call volumes require less of a subsidy, but nobody breaks even without it. So if we look at our entire call volume of 4,700 calls across 500 square miles, it's not a lot of call volume. Generally speaking, it takes a little over 2,000 calls per ambulance to reach maximum efficiency. Which if you did the math on this, that would be about 2 ambulances, 2.5 ambulances, which is not, it works on paper, but it doesn't work to cover the square miles that we're covering. So we need more infrastructure, and that it just incurs more costs, unfortunately. Areas of higher call volume can get away with lower subsidy. We're just not in that kind of position where we're covering the area that we're covering with the resources that we do. But keeping the volume from the transfer side and the volume from the 911 side, and hopefully capturing some subsidy from both sides will reduce everybody's cost to a certain amount. That'll bring it down, I think, like I said, the high 30s and 40s is what I'm hopeful for. So I don't think the 70 is realistic. We would take some drastic measures before we ever approach the towns about that, but I did put it on here as a reference.
What's gonna happen with a bunch of the towns that have gotten together and basically said, nah, we're not paying that amount of money? So I know that's in the works right now.
Yeah, I have heard about that. I haven't seen anything come to me directly yet. I have been told about that. At this point, my response to that is we're looking for a break-even point. We're not at a point right now, we're looking at setting aside money for, rainy day fund. We're looking at a break-even point and sustainability of the company. So if we run out of money, we can't provide service anymore. And like I said, we don't have that reserve anymore. So anything, well, the 25 is not enough to break us even either. So anything lower than that shortens the timeline that I'm looking at and further.
But my point is, what happens is you have 5 of these towns that just say, no, we're not doing it. Now, are you gonna have to come back to the other towns and go, all right, now you're gonna pick up the slack for the other towns?
No, the fee would remain at 25. We wouldn't be serving those towns.
But you'd still have the same amount of overhead, the same amount of ambulances, the same amount of personnel.
That's
what I'm
correct.
getting at.
That's correct.
So how are you gonna pay for that with only the 25 and the?
Well, we wouldn't be able to, but that wouldn't be something that would change this year. There's a lot of variables that are in motion right now, and it's really hard to predict what that final number is gonna be. Like I said, the 25 was, kind of an intermediate number, with our target number where we need to reach by July of next year, not July of this year. So we'll have a little bit of wiggle room, but not a lot. So depending on what happens this year and the response that we get will dictate how we do things next year.
And something about that for the towns that went about this thing, they never got one fire chief involved. This is coming from town managers. They don't know what's going on around here. The ambulance, if we don't have them, where we going?
Right, I know. Well, it's not just the town managers either. I've heard it from
Well, I know.
select boards and everything else.
This letter that went out saying that they're only gonna pay this amount, and that's it. That came from all town managers, not one fire chief was at that meeting. And they don't know what's going on.
And again, I'm sensitive to the fact that this is a big jump and, looking at something that's gonna be higher than that next year is also, it's a difficult pill to swallow. I'm trying to offer a degree of transparency here with where the company is that I'm not sure if it was communicated before. But like I said, this is a break-even point for us. We're searching to find that break-even point to make sure that we're able to continue to provide service. So we're doing what we can to make sure that the costs are as low as possible for the towns that we're covering, but with the understanding that they have to go up. There's no way for us to continue operations if they don't. When we were coming up with these numbers though, I did do some homework and I looked around the state. Some low call volume areas and some higher call volume areas closer to us, just for some comparison, because I wanted to make sure we were in the right range. So Washington County has a large geography, obviously, and very low call volume because they don't have a lot of people living there. They have operational costs. I've got listed here $72 and $81 per capita, but I believe there's some that are a little bit north of that. Pushing $100 per capita or more. I don't have that information here in front of me though. In the town of Jefferson, last 2 years ago, at one point, I believe they were covered by two services. They're covered by the town of Waldoboro and Central County Ambulance Service down in Damascata. The town of Waldoboro jumped their per capita rate pretty drastically either last year or 2 years ago. But right now, they're paying both services per capita equivalent of about $65 per capita to provide service. Town of Waldoboro covers about 2/3 of the town. CLC covers roughly the bottom third. I think the closer comparisons for us are Medicare, which is based out of Mexico, Maine. They cover 11 towns, pretty similar makeup to what Delta is. They're at $45 per capita right now. And I think it's, I should mention too, that not every service uses a straight per capita formula. What I came up with here was per capita equivalents. A lot of towns use, or a lot of services might charge based on call volume, or they might charge based on property tax valuations. But they all arrive at a number divided by the population, gives us the equivalent. The town of Palermo used to be in Delta's coverage area up until a couple of years ago. They're now covered by Liberty Ambulance at $42 per capita. If you look at the fire departments that are in the area, so Gardner, Augusta, and the town of City of Waterville have relatively low subsidies. I believe Waterville subsidy is right around 15 or 16. Gardner, their equivalent is 37. I'm actually not sure what Augusta's is. I believe they charge 18 per capita, but then they also charge bad debt, and I think there's something else on top of that. So the chief kind of guessed in the conversation I had with him that it's probably roughly in the 20s, high to mid 20s. But they're all covering relatively low or relatively small geographic areas. The town of Waterville, or the city of Waterville, for example, they run about 5,000 calls a year. And they do it right now with 2 ambulances. So it's a very high call volume per ambulance, but they also have a very, very tight coverage area with quick turnaround times. So they're able to do that and not have a lot of overhead. But this kind of goes back to the issue that we have as a regional provider where we've got a lot of square miles to cover. So we need that added infrastructure. And unfortunately, when we have resources that are not actively taking calls, they're waiting for those calls. It's not generating anything back. So that's where the costs come from. That's what we usually refer to as cost of readiness. So for 911 operations, and especially for large areas like we cover, the readiness costs are usually quite high. So like I said, I think based on what I was able to gather by looking around our area, I think that we're in the right neighborhood. But I don't have that exact number. I know that's what everybody wants right now. That's what I want too. I would think that within the next couple 3 months, I should have that pretty close to being nailed down. You know, like I said, we are having some conversations with the hospital systems right now, and I think it's moving in a good direction. So with any luck, we'll be able to mitigate what the increases are going to be. But I would estimate, like I said, on the good side of things, I think it's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $40 per capita by July of next year, July 25.
So should we be lobbying our legislature to?
Oh, yeah. Let me speak to that real quick. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me. So the Board of Commission recommended about, correct me if I'm wrong here, was for transporting services.
They're on 70 million.
Yeah, again, there was another 6 million for non-transporting services. There was 70 million for transporting services like Delta that was going to be distributed across the state each year for 5 years. And that was basically in acknowledgement of the issues that we're having right now, where the call volume and the revenue that we're generating doesn't match our operating costs. They found that this was universal across the state, as no service was actually breaking even. So that 70 million for each year for 5 years was supposed to buy everyone time essentially, and allow legislation to catch up and allow insurance reimbursements to come up to where they should be. What actually happened was $31 million was issued as a one-time infusion. And then out of that, $10 million was issued as a emergency funding. That was 7 months ago.
They just finally got the paperwork,
yeah,
the forms to apply for
yeah, the applications were made available, in December. We submitted our application right away. We still have not seen anything. Each transporting service was capped at receiving no more than $200,000, which is, I believe, what Delta was approved for. But we, like I said, we haven't seen that yet. So that's another component as to why the per capita increase. So we were, I think, part of that $15 per capita may have been in anticipation of that state funding that was coming through, which never did. So I know the Blue Ribbon Commission continues to work on this, but it seems like it keeps getting bottlenecked in the Maine State Legislature.
Well, what's happened was the amounts keep getting reduced down, you know, to a certain amount for this particular year, because I'm having trouble getting a lot of the ambulance services to allow the state to look at their books. Because what we're doing is the pushback is, we don't want to give them money to have them continue to do what they're doing. If it's an organization that's not running it right and it's going downhill. So we're getting a lot of pushback from people that they don't want the guide rails, they want the money, but they don't really want people to look at their operation. So that's kind of the whole up right now, that's what we're finding a lot of. Yeah. But I know there's another vote coming right off, so.
So we do anticipate some funding coming through at some point, but without having a date there, without having it in their books, it's something I can't really count on right now. And whether or not that continues, I'm not sure if it's, you know, if it's gonna, I know it's recommended as a 5-year plan. I don't know if that's gonna.
I haven't heard any changes. I mean, they're still talking.
Okay.
Pardon me, Chris, do you anticipate other operational costs that you've not seen, but sort of are getting wind of, that are just on the cusp of what's in the future? Not that you have a crystal ball, but sometimes things come up and say, oh my God, we never thought of that before.
As far as costs go, no. I believe that our operational costs are relatively accounted for. Our biggest one right now is our fleet. We have a lot of aging vehicles right now that we need to replace. Some of this was due to budgetary issues, and some of it was due to supply and demand issues. Everything got put on hold during the pandemic, and now there's about a 2-year wait before you can find a new ambulance. So we do have 2 ambulances that we did budget for. That should be coming through this year, but we have 12 that are probably 8 of which are in need of replacement pretty soon. But as far as other costs go, no, I don't see any surprise costs coming up. Sources of revenue, though, I think is something that we're exploring. So we did sell our Coney Road station. I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of that. There were 2 considerations for that. So one was operational. That's what I initially released was the operational part of this. When we're looking at our 911 coverage map, the city of Augusta is not within our coverage area. So essentially, if you look at it from the top down, our coverage map almost looks like an upside down U with Augusta in the middle. So a plan that came up a couple of years ago was to get rid of the Coney Road base, which is sort of central in the southern area, and split it into 2 bases. Which is something that after we looked at our budget for a couple months ago, that's something that we implemented right away, because we needed the infusion. And the only way to correct that in short order was to sell an asset. So we do have the use of the Coney Road. We're in a month-to-month lease, so there's no changes in response times or anything coming in the near future. And until we secure 2 separate satellite bases, that's going to remain in operation. So we don't plan on, if there is an impact to response times, we hope that it will be for the positive and not detrimental to either way. So we were aware that if we moved to either side of that, we were going to have a satellite base to balance that out. Because as it is, getting to Southern Whitefield and getting up into Belgrade and Smithfield is already probably 20 to 30 minutes, depending on where it is in town. So
that's one of the questions I was going to ask you, is it would be more efficient to talk to some of the towns and talk about putting an ambulance in town than here. Plenty of people doing that, the ambulance is based there.
Yeah, we have talked to that. So Sydney has offered to help us out with that. What we need to be careful with, though, is the river gets in the way of a lot of things. So we're trying to keep something close to that Route 3 crossover by the Connor dealership where the hospital is. The farther away from that, most of our calls happen in that I-95 kind of general area. The farther we go away from that, so we do a lot of transfers, and we have to be kind of aware of that. So the bulk of our call volume, even though it'd be great to have remote stations far out to account for those long response times. The fact is that the bulk of our call volume is more central. So if we move resources too far out, the middle area is gonna suffer a little bit more.
Well, you're just the bearer of really good news.
You must love,
Sorry.
must love coming around for these ones.
I know one of the things we've been kicking around in committee is, because we can talk about regionalization, right?
Yeah.
So we were talking about the other day, and it's like, why don't we do the same thing they do with lobster? Only license so many in certain areas, that way you can't have somebody like Winslow all of a sudden decide they want an ambulance service.
Well, they did that and they're struggling.
Right, and well, I heard everybody, you know, every time you add another person in, it makes the pool, you know, spreads it out more between them same three people, so.
We essentially have a regional ambulance service, it's called Delta Ambulance.
Right, but you all, and then you.
But not having another,
But then you've got
Waterville Star.
Right, you've got Waterville, you've got Augusta, you got.
So, to be fair, Waterville is kind of a unique position, because they actually do have the call volume to sustain their own.
Right.
Augusta does too. Augusta does too, right, but that's about it.
But they're not willing to come out, so say something happens with Delta, Augusta's not gonna serve us, they don't wanna pick up any more towns, Waterville doesn't wanna serve us, so what are we gonna do? And for us to start an ambulance service, you're talking $1 million. At least per capita rate, yeah, and minimum.
And then it just
Two
turns,
full-time
and then it just
people.
turns Delta because there's one more town there, right?
And
You know, so it's.
So believe me, I remember Tim said this at the meetings last year, the last thing he wanted to do was to come to the town and ask for a per capita rate at all. And the last thing I want to be doing right now is to ask for, you know, give you the bad news and say that it's gotta go up this year and again the following year. The good news is that after we reach that break even point, it's gonna level off. Right now, we're struggling to catch that break even point, and once we hit that. Well, when
Most of everything.
when I say level off, we won't be looking at these big jumps. We're looking at these.
Sustainable increase.
That's what
so
the
they
thing
get
is,
to that 45 or whatever it is, 35, 45.
but this is all,
That's gonna be level off, or starting to level
but
off.
this is all in conjunction, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts right now to try to kind of capture all the customers that we're serving right now and try to find a way to make sure that we're, you know, fairly balancing the cost of everything across the board here, so that the towns aren't, you know, bearing the full gap in our budget.
I mean, just in perspective, an ambulance is what, 300 to 400 now?
Oh, to buy it? Yeah, about that, depending on the
I mean,
amount,
that's just.
300.
What hurt them too is last year, they had all the legislators, you know, from Albion and Waterville, and everyone's go over to meet their Delta over in Waterville, and they were talking about this per capita. And one of the questions I came out and asked them, I says, is $15 gonna be enough? Oh, yeah, we don't anticipate any more. And so now they're going back to these towns that.
I think prior, man.
So, yeah, they shouldn't have said what they said, it's not.
But he did, I think somebody here on the board asked him about doing a 2 or 3 year.
I did, yeah.
And he said, no, we're only gonna do the one.
Yeah.
I applaud Chris. 'Cause
Yeah,
he's
he's
being
got
very
quite a good match.
transparent about this.
Yeah.
He's laying it all out on the
I mean,
table.
my only question, maybe Dan, would be, I know what you're saying, like he said, if they, know the town wants to say Sydney says, I'm not gonna pay.
Mhm.
And you say you're not gonna cover that area, are you allowed by state law to do that?
Well,
Even though you are an ambulance service, just like Augusta comes mutual aid here sometimes, if you guys are busy. We've had Waterville out here, not a lot, but randomly you might get Augusta truck or a Waterville truck.
Well, so don't quote me on this, because it's something I need to look into, but my understanding right now is that, that would basically constitute a change to our primary service area. We'd have to change that with the state.
Right, and would they agree to allow that if they don't pay?
Would the state agree to it?
Yeah,
I don't know if they have a say in it or not.
that's what that'd be.
Yeah, that's something I'd
So
like to ask.
yeah, so if that's 2, 3 towns say, no, we're paying, we're only gonna pay 15. And you say, nope, well, that's not gonna cover it. Are you, by state law, allowed to do that, even though you're driving through that town and there's a call or?
It's essentially gonna be like those communities where if you don't pay the fire service, the fire department doesn't come to your house if it's on fire.
I just wondered state law.
Something like that.
Something to that effect, and that's, it's not a road that I want to go down. I need to look into the details of how that would work. But yeah, I was made aware of that letter that's circulating. Which again, it hasn't come to me directly, so I don't wanna put too much stock in it yet without actually reading it. But if that were to happen, we would have to look at changing our response area. Which would have its own impacts, because like you said, we would still be sized for, we have infrastructure for the football volume, and then if we lose, too many of those towns on the band together, we're gonna have to downsize, and if, that changes the year after that, when they want us back, we're not gonna be in a position to do that, so.
And you can just look through the news and, look at Winslow, and they're all having issues and stuff, who said they were gonna all do this.
I think Winslow,
Fairfield.
one running truck, one running.
Yeah, one
I
truck,
think-
Yeah.
and they call you for back.
I think they're using two, right?
Well, I know one of them wasn't working for a while.
Well, they don't have,
Good
staffing, I think some of their paramedics, don't you do still intercepts for them?
Yeah, we do intercepts for
And in Waterville, as busy as they, you still do intercepts for them, right?
We do, yeah, well, so I
Not
mean,
probably smart, but.
no, so as far as mutual aid goes, it's basically an even exchange between us, Augusta and Waterville, three major transporting services in the area. We don't charge each other for mutual aid because it's almost a wash. They come in to back us up in our area just as much as we go into their area to help them out, so, you can only staff to a certain point before, eventually everyone experiences a surge, snow squalls, whatever. So it wouldn't be realistic to staff to accommodate, and we could have 15, 20 trucks on the road, sometimes even that wouldn't be enough on some days.
So my big fear is that we do have a maybe here or whatever town, you have a major call, you need 6, 8, 10 ambulance, that's gonna be a struggle. All at once. Realistically. You have a major call. Disaster.
How's vehicle insurance affecting you guys? I just heard today that vehicle insurance this year, they're predicting it going up 26%.
We actually saw a little bit of a drop in our insurance rate, not a lot, but a little bit, still something. So we get a bundle on everything, so that includes, basically everything with the property, so all the buildings, all the vehicles, it all goes on one. So,
Yeah, I heard today that normal consumers, they're talking 26% increase.
we might feel that next year.
And the only other concern would be the Augusta, because we get it from both Waterville and Augusta, but you're definitely gonna try to keep something on this side of the river, or really close to it, that you're gonna be
Yeah,
able
so,
to cover this side of the Belgrade, Waterville covers North Belgrade kind of.
yep, and whatever we do, we're doing, it's like, I said, it's either gonna basically remain, the response time should either stay the same, or, they should improve if we have two separate stations. So right now, we've been working with Cooper's Mills down that neck of the area. It's been slow progress. I'm not sure if we're gonna have a satellite station down there at this point. So we're looking at either the possibility of finding another site in the central area, somewhere near where the Coney Road is, or we'll find two other sites on either side. So, it's gonna take some time to put that into effect. But in the meantime, we still have the Coney Road to use.
Okay, one last question. Anybody have the last question? Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're walking us through that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah,
Between all-
Bruce
I got
has
one
the last word.
So, at the last meeting, you guys were holding off on signing on to that letter. So at this time, are you guys as a board signing on to that letter or not signing on that? Well, my recommendation not to sign on, but.
Me too. Me too.
No.
We didn't talk about something there.
We said.
Yeah,
we're gonna make a
yes,
decision.
we were asked if we would sign it before the end of that meeting, and we said no. I wasn't doing anything without talking to
You know, you weren't invited to the meeting. Not a fire chief was there.
About that. That's-
Works well.
I'm trying not to circumvent you.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate your
If I
time.
can provide any more information, just let me know.
Yeah, do you have your contact information?
I'll make sure you have it. I think,
We get it.
Great, thank you.
He has been very upfront with us, but from the beginning since he took over. He got dealt a mess.
Fantastic. Yeah, you got
He got his hands full.
Thank you for the analytical approach. That you
Yeah, Chris-
clearly did a lot of homework. Thank you.
Well, and I remember previously, because citizens do have questions, will the PowerPoint presentation that you have, will that be something that's available? Or could you email it to the town manager, so if citizens have questions, or the fire chief, they could reach out, maybe we can put it on the website, so they can
Yeah, of course.
see clearly why we're looking at this increase,
Absolutely,
you know.
absolutely. Some of this information, so the format of this is something that was drafted back in late November. So every couple of weeks when I get a little bit of new information, it changes just a little bit. The concept has been the same throughout, but some of the numbers may change, some of the more, finer details might change. So this is kind of a work in progress.
We
did say it with this date. Yeah, so
Like, this is accurate.
It's gonna get one.
I think sometimes for
Scenario.
people, it's just the realization that they didn't pay for the service before. Everybody assumed that the insurance companies were picking up things they were supposed to, and they're not.
it's a lot to absorb. I can sympathize. It's a lot to absorb, especially when you've never had a reason to know any of this before.
But there wasn't anybody who, when they need an ambulance, wants to be like, yeah, you know what, we chose. Yeah. So, I'm gonna just thumb it and say, hope for the best.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Let's stick with the fire and rescue folks. Request for proposals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
What do you sign out or just sign?
No.
Exit when you get home.
All right, Ernie, you guys still awake?
One more, Ernie, and we'll get to you. Okay. So,
Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, we just, as a committee, well, Bruce is right here, he's the chair, but,
I'll let Tom take that.
yeah, I mean, Tom is our engineer and going through the RFP, but with a piece of land, we just wanted to get started. We had a little hiccup come in about DOT, which kind of baffles me because I talked to the same DOT guy about the Hammond lawn. It wasn't a problem because of our call volume, but apparently the lawn attorney said it is a problem, but we're waiting. Did you not hear back from them?
Not yet.
So he's been trying to contact him the last 2 or 3 days and no response.
So what is this? I haven't heard.
They're saying that
Issue.
there's issues at 55-mile-an-hour zone, you're not allowed to have a municipality come on onto the highway.
But Tom, you said that this was an issue with even the previous property
Right.
and there were ways around it, so it's not.
Yeah, that's why, and I had a
I
conversation.
know David Allen said
Yeah, he said.
Yep.
I mean,
there was
I'm
that
like,
issue.
When I talked to him down here, he made us put the islands in down the lakes.
Mm.
We talked about this and he said, yeah, as long as you have the volume of calls is low, which you guys should, I kind of gave him rough numbers, and he go, hey, you should be all set.
but it was for,
And then all of a sudden he tells her that this is a problem.
it was for meetings. It was the number of,
50,
yeah.
50 in and out.
50 in and out,
Yeah, like a day or a week.
like a
or-
training
Yeah, but
or
it's-
whatever.
and when you go
Okay.
in is one, and when you go home, it's 2. That really only allows 25 people to go.
Right.
Yeah, but what is that all across, a week, a month, a year?
A day.
That's pretty-
A day.
Yeah,
A day.
that's Never gonna,
Yeah, we
Well, no.
don't even have 25 people come to a training.
No, but then there's a lot of language in there, so it's sufficiently low volume.
Right.
That's what the language is in the rule, and I think we can justify that, and it's been that on every lot that we've looked at. And we're kind of limited in Belgrade because we're on a mobility arterial, and we've got 40 at just before the town office, and then it changes again when you get to Kevin Haas, and everything else is 55.
Right.
So we're kind of bound by that, and I mean, that's the reason why there are variances and waivers, and I think we can justify it, we have no choice.
the only other option would be on, get on a town road.
But we got no way,
We get no way.
we've tried, so we're bound by environmental constraints, we're bound by.
So hopefully, but I think we still should move forward with this. It's just a process to get going. If that comes out to be, that's not gonna allow it to happen, then we'll have to deal with it.
No, it's kind of a cart before the horse thing, because we don't have a design, we don't have a plan yet. And it's hard to justify our cause and we don't know what it's gonna look like. And I don't wanna speak to DOT and make promises that we can't live with later, or that we're having, the design change, we wanna work around things. So we kind of gotta get to the point where we can have real conversations.
Right, I mean, just for an example, like the town office here, had to come in off a road, and that has a road. So push comes to shove, we probably can do it by a road, we just won't have the double entrance.
Yeah, just turn the private driveway into a town road.
Right.
It is, it's already a named
It's a
road.
named
Yeah,
road.
it's not-
It is.
Well, we'll
No,
make
but
it-
this,
we'll
right,
make
but
it-
this was a private road, and it was a named road, and that's how the town office was able to get here, because it was a named road. I think Ernie can even to that one.
So there's ways around it, and just for him to go out and off the spiel and say that that's a big problem. I'm not sure why.
But he was
Because we've
pretty
talked-
clear.
We've all talked about it.
Well,
It's weird.
worst case, if you need, get a hold of me, I'll go with you.
Right.
Cause I'll come right out, tell
So
them that
when-
I'll put legislation through next year that
We're out of options. Right.
it goes around them and
If we
says.
had other options, no problem. We don't have options are limited.
So when
Yeah,
was the
Belgrade Street.
conversation had where Dave Allen said that they were concerned? This is the first I'm hearing it.
Well, we just
It's
say,
good.
We talked about the speed signs that the state is giving us. He mentioned that he hadn't heard any more about a new fire station going in. Kind of curious, I think. And because he mentioned the piece of land that is no longer being considered, and I said, we got over that some time ago. I said, but we found another spot. This is really great. We're very excited. He said he didn't know anything about it. So he explained where it was, and that's when he said that there were issues going in and out. And it has a lot to do with the speed, because I don't know anything about that, but he said it has to do with the speed limit. Because it's a high rate of speed, and so their concern would be the traffic in and out of the station. There are parameters or something, so he told his guy to send me something, and I immediately, as soon as I got it, I sent it to Bruce and Dan and Tom, I think, maybe Travis too.
I'll try to contact them since
Yeah.
last Friday.
And
Yeah.
so Tom said, this is not a huge issue, we've had to face this on the other property. There are ways to,
Right.
whatever you say.
Hopefully he
Yeah,
responds.
so it wasn't a big
Yeah,
deal.
because we talked about if you had to stop traffic so that you could exit, there were some ways there. I was just surprised.
So we just still wanna go through the RFP and we
Sounds like
wanna,
she knew all about it. Did you know?
I didn't
You
know.
didn't know either?
yeah, it just came up. That's why we're trying to get answers before we came tonight, but he's not responding yet.
Right, so I emailed him on Friday immediately after and asked if he would be available for a phone call so we could talk through it and I could understand the issues, no response. Travis pulled 5 years worth of call summaries for me, so we kind of justify what our volume is over the whole town. And then we went and buy apparatus and said, Rescue 6, 6-3, 6-5 would be stationed here. This is the total we're talking about. This should be sufficiently low, we're below 50 trips per day. Let's have a discussion. I still haven't heard back yet, so I don't know.
We're hoping to have an answer, or at least somewhat of it.
For all I know, and again, this is how these things work, is he's running it up the chain internally to make sure that they can check the box and that we're okay, but you're kind of asking a lot of DOT to make promises when we don't have an actual plan. This is a unique situation, because usually you own the land, you have a design, you state your case and you go for it. But there are waivers, we can waive the standards, it's the same, it's gonna be for every lot, so it's confusing that they're have an issue down there where I think we're farther out of town and certainly better than the depot intersection, which is the same speed limit and a lot more traffic, so.
Right.
And then we can appeal. It's not the way you wanna do it, but that's what the process is, so,
He
So it's
did
not a
make,
deal
he
breaker.
did make a statement, though, if we have a town road, which might mean that we'd have to take the road that we turn onto and make it a town road.
Right.
Right now, it's not. It's private.
When was that meeting?
So that was the
No.
speed sign meeting.
Okay.
It was a speed sign meeting, and that came up at the speed sign meeting.
Huh. Yeah,
Because
so anyway,
that's the kind of stuff like we all should get an email about, so.
We did. About the speed,
About the speed sign
About the
meeting?
speed sign,
Yeah.
the Lorna was
Yeah.
meeting, Lorna was meeting.
I had no idea what the issue was with DOT, and I immediately sent that information to fire and rescue, and they have dealt.
We're trying to get an answer.
Tom's dealt with this previously,
Yeah.
so he knew what to do and who to
Yeah, but
talk
this
to.
is something on our radar. I mean, that's the sort of thing that I'm like, send me something that just says, hey, Dave Allen said.
I'll make a note to go back and forward you his.
But that's why we wanna continue to move forward, with that lot, with an RFP to go out, that's what we sent you. Maybe you could explain a little bit.
Sure, so the RFP is to try to get an A&E firm to help design and permit through construction of the new fire station. We broke it up by several tasks, trying to outline what we're looking for and what I think is a way to hopefully get like an apples to apples comparison, but not be so restricted that these companies can't use their experience and expertise to kind of fill in the gaps per se, to tell us what we need. So do you just want me to give my basic summary and then I can answer any questions?
No, I need to read it right.
Yeah, so task one is basically to work with town of Belgrade, the fire rescue committee and the building committee to come up with our site layout that we want. That'd be like a floor plan, that'd be a general arrangement of the site. We've got a couple of visions in here so we can make sure it's meeting our needs and what we're looking for. And then that plan would also be the basis to hone in on some of these items and specifics with permitting agencies. So, the Belgrade Planning Board, Maine DOT, DEP, everything like that. And that's kind of our first checkpoint. We'd get a deliverable. We'd say, yes, we like this, we don't like that. And eventually through that task, we would get that kind of conceptual 2D schematic plan that would say, this is what the station is going to be. If it meets our needs, this is what we want. From that point, there would be an option for them to give us a construction cost estimate. So based on that schematic design, they'd solicit bids from contractors and formally give us an engineer's estimate. So we can take that amount and we know what to ask voters for at town meeting. Then concurrently with that, advance the design. State approvals, federal approvals if needed, and then kind of step by step go through construction and building the project.
You can rent outdoor bay.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
If we were further ahead, that might be an option.
Seriously.
So that's the general approach, followed some of the town RFPs that we've used in the past. The one item we didn't talk about we talked about it as a committee, but we didn't come to any agreement or recommendation to the selection criteria. I think we've all discussed, and I know, it's been expressed from past meetings with the planning board that we want to make sure we get the right help and the most qualified consultant, maybe not the cheapest price. So that's why we kind of broke out some of these criteria. We didn't assign percentages, but our idea is to kind of focus on experience, qualifications, and who we want to work with, less of just who's going to come in, put a bottom barrel price, and then change order us to death later, or maybe not.
So do you want to just take, or do you want to put in later some sort of percentages, or just take out the percentages and just have those?
I mean, I think it's worth putting it in the RFP because it lets them know what to focus on. So when they're bidding on it, they say, well, I'm gonna put more time on my qualifications and demonstrating my value as a company than coming in with the lowest price. Or, I hate to say it, but sometimes we get creative and we think like, oh, let's make some, fast assumptions, and we can say, we're not gonna need this, we're not gonna need that. We can get our price down and that will rate our RFP higher. So I think if we give that criteria, it'll help them know what they're looking for.
But what I'm asking is, are the XX's going to be
We should
replaced with
come up-
percentages?
We should come up with percentages.
Okay, just so it doesn't go out with XX's,
Exactly.
or either
And they stay
don't give them
blank.
percentages or.
Yeah, they stay blank because we didn't come into committee, we didn't come to an agreement on
Okay,
exact percentages.
Okay,
We just
okay.
talked about it.
thank you.
Do you know if there's a basis, like, I guess, we've seen other ones with percentages?
Yeah, I mean, you could go there's 5 of them, so it's 20% of these. You could rate costs down to like 10% and then rate something like, past experience up an extra 5, and then another one extra 5, so.
Right, I think you want to do that in such a way that, avoid some sort of grievance later.
Right.
Right, so you set yourself up for success, line those things out, it's clear, go. I like the idea of bringing the cost down, or that week down.
I mean, doesn't stop you from picking the cheapest one if they end up being the most qualified too, but
Right.
it just shows, and when we review and make our recommendation, we would kind of score things on points and try to, have a systematic approach. We also want to do interviews with maybe if we get 3 or 4 bidders and, the top 2 that we want to interview the prime players that are going to be supporting that company. So we know it's someone we're going to want to work with and is going to work with us for the next, 2 years through this process, because I think that's important too. That's general, I think, gist of the approach here.
Good. So, do we want to go ahead and do this, and just let them determine the percentages? That's fine with me.
It's fine with me.
Yeah, so just determine the percentages before the RFPs go out.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So we know this is gonna take time, and there's a couple tests that Tom says need to be done at about 10 to April, 10 to 8, or, I think one of the previous lots you had approved us taking it out of the capital reserve. We got a couple estimates to do that was it like 3,000?
Yeah, it was less than 3,000.
Less than 3,000, so we could do those, that wouldn't be part of this, just because this is gonna take time. Time we get this out there, we interview, I mean, between building committee, which has a select board member, the town manager, and the rest of us, but that we can get those done, that have to be done between April and May, and we just wanna make sure, we had it approved from you on the previous lot, but just wanna make sure we could do that for this lot. If everything, I mean, I guess we'll wait on the DOT thing, but I think that
Once,
will work.
yeah, once the land is under purchase and sale agreement and we have the land, we want to do wetland delineation and vernal pool assessments
Yes.
during that window in the spring. And our concern is by the time we get through the RFP process, we have someone on board, they're already booked up for that window and we're kind of behind the 8 ball. So I think we can get on someone's books now because it's short money for that work and that can be used by whatever.
Otherwise, you'd have to wait till next
Yeah.
spring.
That's really-
Yeah.
Again, or you assume a worst case and we don't.
For that
I see
little bit
no
of money, I
problem.
think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Letting you do it on this property instead of the other one.
Right.
We approved the expense.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear, so we. If it was the other one, you're in trouble now.
And that's coming out
We
of
need
that
to-
same account.
Yeah, we have the building capital reserve. Yep.
Yeah. So do we need to vote on any of this?
We probably should for the issue, just for
Yeah.
clarity.
So let's, I move that we approve the RFP. And that, the committee will, put in the percentages for selection criteria that they feel is appropriate.
I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Okay, second, and all in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Tony? I'll vote yes, so 5 yeses. And do we want to vote on taking reserve
Well, we need to vote on letting them take money for the testing.
for the testing?
That's what I was gonna say. I make a motion that we allow the Belgrade Fire, how do you want to say, Belgrade Fire Association to conduct tests necessary for sampling of the new property with the funds to come out of the fire department capital.
Building committee, no,
Building committee.
Belgrade Fire and Rescue Building Committee.
Okay.
I second.
Got it.
Okay,
Just them exact words.
Yes.
okay, seconded by Carol. Okay, all in favor, Melanie? Yes. Peter?
You bet.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, so 5 yeses.
Oh, yeah.
Go for it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.
Keep you posted.
Okay, Ernie.
Well, we've got an issue. Pretty on. We're all issues. But we used to come across here a while down. We go across the road 27 and go up to the fire station. And that trail got moved because of the ditch problems we had, because the equipment we had back then was pretty difficult to work with in the ditches. So we moved the trail out and we come across and went across where the gazebo is. And the lady from California stopped us from going through there because we were scratching the rocks. So she should have saw it. So then we lucked out. Well, we had another issue coming off Long Pond. And the select board approved us going across, coming off Long Pond, where we get off Long Pond, we had to move over. So we went to the town beach on Long Pond and came up Shoreland Drive. She gave us permission to get to the grill that way, because they get off a ton of traffic, like fishing can go there. So that, we didn't really want to use that, because it was a horrible way to get to the grill. So then we locked out cold, right across from the fire station. Just, I would say, I don't know, comfort zone here. So I'm gonna say just north of the fire station toward the Sunset Grill. Comes right across, his road comes up off the lake,
Great Pond and goes across and goes right up by where the old
Rec center, is that what you mean?
no, the old, what back then wasn't called the Center for All Seasons, it was our old,
The old campground?
it was where everybody got married and everything else, so.
The old rec center, there's the old
The
rec
old
center.
rec center.
The old,
The old
the
rec
old,
center.
the old, oh. So that, we went up through that way. And, at that time, back when we was going, I'm just giving a little bit of history. I've been doing this
Yeah.
for 52 years in Belgrade. Started in 1972. We've got, I've seen all the issues you could possibly, almost possibly mention. But anyway, so Cole sold his property. And the numbers are fantastic. It's probably, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 feet down. He never filed his driveway and he's really good. He really helped us get a nice ramp off the lake and so he sold. So whoever bought the property, which I'm not sure who has brought the property, but he put a note there. He cut the dock out, said, the ramp out, and said aluminum only, which is, I understand, that's fine. He's bought the land, he doesn't want wood in the water. Because in the water when we first put it in, and it stays in all the time. So now the road is being plowed, the driveway is being plowed down in it. So the minute you get in right now, already it's dirt. So our only option right now that I can see is to come down and come off at the center where we used to come off. And that, I think back then, that owned almost all that up there, but I don't remember all the owners. And then once Bob made the exchange or whatever got took place and we got the land for the center. And then he sold his property up there to the golf course. We had to get permission from the golf course. So these are all the things we've had to deal with. So now we're back to, we've got the equipment now where we can go, get off the lake and go off. Like, you know, where I can't see where the actual beach is because it's all snow, but we looked it out, looked at it. And I'm pretty sure it's right close to where the beach is. It's not even.
So kind of where that little peninsula
Yeah,
piece
the
of
little thing
land
sticks
is,
out
yeah.
there. Yeah,
Okay.
so we're gonna come out there, be a right. And that's all, I'm assuming that's all mowed in the summertime, grass.
Yeah.
It's a big area, because the center is a long ways off to that. And you go over there, and you got that other little building that they use in the summertime.
Camp Blue, we got it behind Camp.
Camp Blue,
Yeah.
Sailing Club.
And so, looking at your map, this map that I sent. Or,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
asked for the map because I was like, can I see it?
well, this map,
So who owns the lot with the little red bridge or whatever? you got?
Tree.
Tree.
oh, no, that's Belgrade, that's the town.
You own a whole lot behind the Dalton property?
Yeah, matter of fact,
We own 2, 2A and 3.
the fire association has, granite out there for Beano pit in that lot stored there.
Well, according to what this is here, this is all town property. Right here. Coming toward the town office on 27, there's a wooden fence that goes in right here. And I don't know if that's a fire road or something that goes in there, but it's all clear, nice and wide. And you go down in there and there's a little kink and stuff there, but there's a lot of big rocks, so we had to set out, but it's all clear. There was only one tree that was blown down in this last storm. It's marked in red, and we would cut that. Other than that, we don't need to touch anything. So, and we don't use it unless it's The lake has to be froze to start. It's the only way to get
Yeah,
there.
we don't want you.
Yeah.
We don't want you going as fast as you can to jump anything.
And there wasn't any way to go right down and hit the lake right straight down without coming over on the Center for All Seasons behind that camp room? You couldn't have gone just straight onto the lake?
Well, this is the boat landing over here. Where the dotted lines is, that's the boat landing. We come right down the boat landing. Before we come down, further down, hit Coles, and come right out by the fire station.
Yeah, I was just wondering, there's no way.
So
to
are
just
you
come out right
parking
here.
cars at the boat landing?
Nobody parks in, well, people from away come in there and park their
Right,
vehicle
but
and
you're not.
fish, and we don't, oh no. We have 43 miles of trails.
Okay,
So this just gets people through the grill. This is trail number 29, and we have
okay,
we have a GPS map that the state is GPS is 43 miles, not lakes, just
Mhm.
land. We have over 115 landowner permissions. And these are the issues that we run into. All of a sudden, something changes
right,
and it just, you can't really, you don't wanna stave up land. And if they're plowing the road and then snowmobiles don't wanna run on gravel and stuff,
right,
so.
right.
This was our last resort, otherwise, I'm not sure how they're gonna be able to get to the grill. Or get over on the long pond. So people comes from, when we tie into, Augusta came to Belgrade Dragon Masters. North Augusta Trailblazers closed, so they asked us to take care of those trails going over to 27th.
Mhm.
So we've absorbed that area and we go all the way over to Reedfield Log, which is in Reedfield. But it goes through, well, actually, the bog itself is in Mount Vernon.
Mhm.
And we go all the way up, we used to go all the way to Ingham Stream, up on the Ingham Stream, which is on the old bog road up there. Which we go on, there's a 500-acre lot up there that only snowmobiles allowed on it, and it's a skiing and Lakes Association manages that whole property. So, and when they got that, only snowmobiles allowed to go there, and we can only go there when there's snow on it.
Right.
Which is what, the only time we would be going up here. But we have the proper equipment now, and we just come down, we put the no snowmobiling signs, I was gonna bring some signs and stuff, because the state provides all the signs. And the state, we have to give a list of all the landowners to the state. It all gets sent into the state, and everything that we do, they only pay us 30 miles, although we do 43 miles. And we've been very fortunate as a club, all volunteers. This last storm, for example, we had the trails all clean, taken care of. The last storm with this big wind that came down, it took us 5 Sundays, 5 weeks actually, flying with crews of like 5 men, just on the north side of Belgrade Stream, clearing the bridge. Just to get them cleaned up, it was brutal. I take care of mostly everything on the south side of Belgrade Stream, because I wait till the ground is froze and have a good sized tractor. I can run the chainsaw and the tractor can move the stuff. So it doesn't, I'm 79 years old, so, but I still love being out there and I drag a lot. But this last couple of years, it's been harmful, and it's learning the sport, but yeah, it's a pleasure to be out there. And it's just a pleasure to be able to have a trail, so when it's posted on our website, and people email us and go to the website, and they call, want to know the trail conditions, stuff like that, because they want to come up here, go to the grill or go fishing, stay at these houses and stuff. So to get to the grill, you either got to come down Long Pond or Great Pond. There's no other way to get to the grill. And we abut Rome, and Rome has a heck of a nice trail off in Great Pond. I don't know if you're aware of it now. But you go off in Great Pond and go north, get Trail 87, which ties into the state trail that goes north. The snowmobile system in Maine is, I think it was 15,000.
43,000.
Oh, 43?
I think so.
It was 43, well, it's
It's huge.
43,000 miles snow. So we just a small piece of it, but there's a lot of, all kinds of people in this town, like it's their snowmobiles, and they love riding up to the grill. And we have, Belgrade has a history of having,
Well, it's like the
Perfect.
when you go in, that's your,
yeah.
where are we gonna grab a bite to eat? Here,
Oh.
here?
Right. So Ernie, I have a question for you. As far as the snowmobiles crossing Route 27, there's adequate sight lines there.
Well,
The speed limit is what, 45 there?
Yeah, that's almost a perfect place, but we cross down at the fence company, and we cross down by, where 135 comes up through by the cemetery, we cross right there to get over on the Massillonsky Lake,
Uh-huh.
so. and
Okay,
we go
so
up.
they're good, so there are good sight lines there.
Oh, this is perfect, and we're not gonna be, we will not be damaging any of the property. And we won't be cutting anything, we just need to remove that down tree, which is gonna help you. I don't know, really. So we have the proper signs, so.
Back to my question earlier though. Move here for a second?
Yeah.
Probably easier. Is there no opening over in here? That you could just go that way and hit the lake? Rather than coming behind that Camp Bloom and.
Well, no, this,
That Camp Bloom is over in here.
yeah, Camp Bloom, but right here, it's all
Okay, that's why.
Yeah.
Just coming through here, you got there, you got a swing set, and you got a well that sticks up.
Well, I don't-
A well casing that sticks up over there too, so you wanna be careful, somebody doesn't come off that thing and hit that well.
Well, the thing is, it's really the well casing, it's like a movie field, that they have like 4 well casings, and those are well marked.
Okay,
And the other thing is, any hazard we mark it.
I just wanna make sure that somebody doesn't hit that.
Yeah, I just said the kid,
I got a daughter.
his wife and I covered
Hit
that.
well casing.
Oh, my goodness. We'll hold the picnic table over it.
If I can find where that well casing is, it will be marked.
I can show you where it is, Ernie.
Yep. Yeah, so all we need to do is put a stake and we'll mark it.
Just let you know.
Yeah, actually reflected, we have really good reflective.
I've seen snowmobiles, there's a trail here, it goes, maybe a loop off the side or something. And
I didn't know what you was making.
yeah, I was just wondering why they had to go that way instead of just going straight on.
Well, it comes down and it's quite a ways away, and we went down there and looked at it, rocky. So if you can't, now you gotta build a ramp. And it's just, it's this way, and we're roughly 50 feet away from that building. I think it's actually building.
Yeah, that's about where it is, it's on that corner, so.
Yeah, well, we're back up to me. I didn't realize there was a well case in there, but Joe, I think it's Joe that rents up there. And, we went up there and was checking it out, he came out, he was all, he took us out and showed us. We walked through the woods, I kind of knew, but there's a fence. Which marks, this is the property line that the town owns. I'm not sure if this is how it's known, on the map that I get. And we're gonna go right in here where the fence is, it's big, I don't know if that was an old fire road or what.
So park, that's where they used to put tents when they had the campground. That was where tents were,
Oh,
tent area.
Down in here.
Yeah, because all that old wood fence is part of the old campground.
In the past, we used to go over there and go into the ditch, but this ditch is not pleasant. As close you get to the fire station,
Rock area.
it's, you know, it's bad. But we do have the equipment. We have what hydraulic drags and everything's on tracks now, so you know, it's really, with ATVs with tracks, so we don't really save up anything. There's no level, no. And I know that would be, I thought might be your biggest concern is that we would damage the land. Exposed, and we can't go there unless.
I didn't even realize town owned that much land over.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
either.
a little bit.
Yeah, it's a huge lot. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
we got a ton of granite over there for Vino.
Yeah.
All right, I make
So do we need a
motion
vote
that-
for this?
I make a
Yeah.
motion that the town authorize Belgrade Dragon Masters to use this new access point adjacent to the Center for All Seasons.
I appreciate that.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor, Jan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Yes.
No, yes, although, yes, 5 yes.
What's that? I said, I'm just hoping there's no issue with the town insurance company.
I sent the paperwork.
There's liability.
They do have liability.
That state buys that every year. You absolutely cannot be, you can be sued, but they will pay for all the legal. Since 1970, nobody has ever won anything. There's never been any cases brought because the state passed a law. Back when we used to have problems with the gravel pits, people would sue the owners because of ATVs and stuff.
So you have to list every owner that you trust their property.
Yes.
My daughter's name on that list.
Do we, really?
You know, over there heading into Larry's house.
Yeah.
She owns, we're taking about 4 of these tables.
Yeah.
Across the her property.
Yeah, well, it's still, she should be on the list because that she's insured.
Yeah, I didn't know if they realized that right where it crosses the driveway.
Well, Larry.
It drops down onto her property and then it starts to go up the hill again.
Yeah.
And then it's back onto Baker's.
Baker, yeah.
Okay,
well,
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for your patience. Yeah.
Oh, that's all right.
Ernie remembers what it's like.
Okay, I'm wondering if the RFP for auditing services, is there any? Could we postpone this till the next meeting? Looking at the time.
I know the time is.
This is, the same RFP that was sent out previously,
Okay.
what, 2019 maybe? So all I did was pull it open and change the dates.
Change the
And
date.
it gave me,
That's fine. Let's just do it then.
any updated figures.
Okay, and until what date? There's a,
Right.
so you're suggesting that we
For that.
have it due March 14th. So the yellow under instructions will be accepted until March 14th at 10 p.m. Because in the memo to start, it says due date of March
Yeah,
14th.
get it out the week of February 20 and have a due date of March 14, so it'd be ready for your March 20 meeting.
Right, so under instructions, then March 14th would go in the yellow, what you've highlighted for yellow.
Correct.
Okay, so March 14th. And then it'll be opened on the 16th, right? Wait, that's right around town meeting. Due date of March 14th.
March 14th is a
It's a
Thursday.
Thursday.
Oh, and then we open them on Friday? Which is a voting day, maybe that's not the best. That's
It is voting day.
voting day at the center.
If we do this, just push it ahead and put the auditing proposal due in April. It's not gonna affect our audit this year,
Correct.
Right,
so why don't we, instead of racing to the finish and
right.
trying to navigate around voting, just push it ahead till next month.
So April. Maybe like early April? Your first meeting is the 2nd of April,
We have them due in on April 11th to be opened on the 12th. to be
and ready for the
16th.
16th, yeah.
Yeah.
So April 11, open the 12th. And be ready for the 16th, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And what time are you opening them? Do you open
I usually do it like around noon or something.
noon? Okay, we'll just put noon in. Okay.
Yeah, so people can come. Yeah.
And just do April 16th.
Oh, abatements.
So do we need to
Oh, we
vote
need to
on
look at this, so, I move that we approve the, RFP for auditing services.
Second?
All in favor? No, yes.
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
5 yeses. Okay, I move that we approve abatement number 2023-17. Correct the value of the buildings for map 11, lot 13. All buildings were removed in 2018 plus or minus. No prior notice given.
Seconded.
Sorry. Barged ahead. Okay. $497.62 to first Lawrence Dingus. Any discussion? Melanie seconded.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Carol?
Yeah.
Stay.
Oh, staying on that. Okay. 4 yeses, 1 abstain.
Okay.
Okay. Warrants. Oh, wait, where's the new list? Okay. I know that we approved B&B warrant 11 in the amount of $9,758.73. All in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
All vote yes, 5 yeses for warrant 11. Payroll warrant 12 in the amount of $26,385.93.
Second.
All in favor? Yes. Peter?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All vote yes. 5 yeses. AP warrant 13 in the amount of $650,739.11.
Second.
Any questions?
On page 3. We have the check for Kennedy County Humane Society, but usually once a year we put out. We reach out to the animal shelters and then do a contract with them, whichever one we choose. I don't recall doing a contract with them.
We haven't done that since I've been here. There was a contract in place with Kennebec and a contract last year with Kennebec.
Right, prior to the last 2 years, we were using Waterville. So then Kennebec came in a little bit less on the
Yeah, we
contract.
Usually check the teachers.
The least expensive. Okay, I didn't know that.
So,
Okay,
do we have a contract with them then?
well, I'm waiting for them to send one.
Okay, question there.
Do we not want them?
Waterville's had some problems lately. I
Yeah.
stick with Kennebec,
They have,
and they have a new facility on
yeah,
the Layton Road,
Increase the cost.
which may.
which is much more,
cost us
which is very
money.
convenient, much more convenient than having to go into downtown Augusta.
It was last night for me.
Let's say, Rick. Waterville right now would be quite an inconvenience for animal control, because they gotta go way
All
down
the way.
because the
Yeah.
road's closed.
That road is
Yeah.
closed.
So it'd be
And
real
the new
inconvenient.
facility is nice, isn't it?
I just dropped a dog off last night there.
I mean, I wasn't necessarily worried as much about the facilities or whether or not the web road was closed. It's just that we just look at both of them and then that's how we decide, I was checking, I have one question here, do we have a phone?
Okay, so I'll make a note. Do you want me to contact Waterville for pricing?
Probably wouldn't have to be fair.
We may still, even if they're cheap, we may still decide to stay with the government, or it's just.
Gotcha.
What was that? So I have a.
Okay, any other questions on the AP warrant number 13? No, all in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
All vote yes, 5 yeses for AP warrant 15. State warrant 14, in the amount of $11,652. I move that we approve state warrant 14 in the amount of $11,652.
Second.
Seconded by Carol. All in favor, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All vote yes, 5 yeses. Postage warrant number 15. Oops. So that must be in my packet. Okay, in the amount of $794.05.
Second.
All in favor, Helen? Yes. Peter?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yeah,
I'll vote yes, 5 yeses. AP, I move that we approve AP warrant 16 in the amount of $4,540.70.
second,
All in favor? Dan? This is State of Maine BMV
Yeah.
and the copy center for printing the newsletter.
Yeah, I'm looking at the copy center. I'm just curious of how much we had
That's
in this
news,
newsletter.
yeah.
Yeah, right. $1,800, $1,900 of newsletter. Well,
Yeah. I think the highest for this is 1,200, and Hammond Lumley is helping us to offset that.
So anyway, I'll vote yes on this one, but I think we need to see if we can find some sponsors to get some money out of the newsletter.
Okay.
oh, yes. I
We
vote
do
yes.
have advertising,
Yeah,
the advertising.
to see what that offset, but
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, yeah.
Okay, Dan voted yes, Carol?
I said yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Helen? Yes. I'll vote yes, so 5 yeses for warrant 16. I move that we approve payroll warrant 17 in the amount of $20,849.11.
Second,
All in favor? No. Yes. Peter?
Yes.
Carol?
yes,
Dan?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, 5 yeses. Move that we approve payroll warrant 18,
You want it?
wait. 17. Oh, sorry, it's the second page of the same thing, sorry. Okay, I move that we approve AP warrant 18 in the amount of $5,180.34.
second,
Any questions on this?
Did we have to put pest control out
I have an RFP for February 20. I worked on that this week. That'll be on your agenda for.
want to make sure?
Yep.
Okay, so moved and seconded.
Mhm.
Okay, Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
yes,
Peter,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
I'll vote yes, 5 yeses for AP warrant 18. AP warrant 19 in the amount of $400.
That's for hay bales for the ice cream. To put around.
yeah.
They were gonna be cold enough there to freeze them.
Oh, second,
Okay, all in favor, Melanie,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Carol,
yes,
Dan? I'll vote yes, so 5
Donate the hay
yeses
bales
for
at the
AP
end.
warrant 19.
Can we donate the hay bales when we're done with them? Or one of the area farms?
I would assume they're gonna use some of them.
Oh, well, we may want to check with Jason and see if he needs them for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they'll
Yeah.
use some, I think, right, for summer.
I just wanna make sure we don't just.
Right.
Oh, no.
Tracy?
Question about hay bales. We were on hay. So do you guys need hay bales?
No, we did. We just spent $400 on.
Well, next time if you guys need hay bales, just ask me. I can, give you some to use if you need them.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It costs you nothing.
They just bought 80 of them.
Yeah, and that's crazy.
You gotta remember, they're gonna get wet and nasty. They just use.
Yeah, that's fine. You can still, I have friends that have cows that we can give them to too.
Good to know.
Okay, so we have one more warrant. I move that we approve warrant 156 from 2023 in the amount of $10,917.53.
second,
All in favor, Melanie,
Here is some other electric.
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Carol,
yes,
Jan?
Much as I hate to, yes.
I'll vote yes, for 5 yeses.
We need to verify. We gotta, most everything's getting switched to LEDs and buildings and everything else.
I know, yeah, for station, we just switch, we're switching everything up there.
Yeah, transfer station has just gone over, Center, I double checked with Corey, Center for All Seasons is LED.
Yeah,
That's it.
all, this is all LED. Yeah. Yeah, that was part of the, when it went out to bid, that was part of the dispatch.
Okay, I skipped other business. There was no other business.
Well,
The speed sign,
Oh, the speed signs.
that's this. What, DOT sent us, that we got in.
so, if I can, I wanted to, I saw where they were looking to propose these and, the one heading south. The one heading south, right, is looking to put the speed sign right about where there's a speed limit sign now. And it will not flash into, it may flash for one house, but, it's further down the hill. It's right at the Belgrade line, Belgrade Rome line, if you're coming into town. However, the other sign that, we talked to Dave Allen about was changing was the one that's on page 2. And the one on page 2 is right down smack dab in the center of the village. So it's by, looks across from Lake Point Real Estate, right across from Timmy Otides' house. The church is there, Rodenheiser's, there are a whole bunch of
Oh,
houses
Lake
there.
Home, Lake Home,
Huh?
Lake Home. If it's any good.
Did I say Lake Point?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lake Home.
Lake Home. Okay.
So, I just think one, you know, there's been.
It's right beside the church.
Huh?
It's right beside the church.
The church and Lake Home are right there together. Across the street is Tony Utides. So what we talked to Dave Allen about is pulling it back and putting it back about where the dairy bar is or the seafood restaurant. And the thinking on that is, one, we'll be having the parking lot there, which will be slowing down traffic. But I grew up right over that hill and the cars come flying over that hill. And it makes sense to me that we try to slow traffic down back, because by the time they get into the village, you have to touch your brake. There's a little bit of a curve. You slow down by the time you get where that sign is. But, so Dave Allen is, agreeable to move that sign back.
Oh, excellent.
And it would be a 35 speed zone and, you know, I would hope that once we get, you know, the parking lot done and traffic in and out, maybe we lower the speed zone there, but that's a conversation for another day. So I would propose that we move that back to across from, I think he said the seafood restaurant or something. It's the dairy bar.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
right
he
there.
called it the
It's either
seafood, I
there
think he
or
called
there.
it the seafood.
Either there or just right in front of the fire station.
Yeah.
Right in that area.
Yeah.
So,
It makes sense.
It's like just a little road.
that really makes sense to do it, so.
But what he was trying to do initially was to have it in the 25 zone. But that just puts it too far because the speed is gonna be calibrated on what the speed limit is, where the sign is.
Yeah.
So he was trying to put it in the 25 zone. But at that point, as Carol said, it's too late.
Great, crazy, so, anyway, we have to let him know by Friday, yeah. So,
Has a question.
Bruce?
So I guess my opinion on this, you know, granted, DOT's given us, we should have one in the lakes and one here. This is one of our most dangerous areas, the most accidents happen between the post office intersection, the most accidents at Christie's intersection. There should be a sign between here and Christie's showing the speed limit that you're speeding, so people can, get people to slow down. You know, I understand you want to slow people down in the lakes, I understand that 100%.
Well, that's why we did the 45
Right.
decrease by the Center for all season.
This is where you, most of your accidents at, this is where one of your speed limit signs should be going, not both in the lakes, one of them
No,
here.
they both have to be down there, 100%. So what we need to do is get two more for them.
we get two more.
DOT is the one who chose where. They just said they were giving them to us and then notified us that they were having a meeting and where they wanted to put them, so they chose.
We had no, so we had no say in
No,
over it.
no, we didn't. But
We can still look.
I can
for the
check
paper,
with
get it all
David
along.
about getting, asking
We
him
can find our
about
paper.
out here.
I just saying that this is We don't, but, you know, this is the most dangerous two
Well,
intersections in
when they
town.
did a speed study in the village, there wasn't speeding.
Well, that's because they put the sign in the middle of the village across from Billy Pulsar's house. By then, people have slowed down. You watch, they come down over that hill flying on the north end. I listen to them all the time. They slow down to get by Days, so when they got to by Billy P, they were, you know, they were in a slower speed. So. But, so anyway, maybe Daryl will give us two more. He's the guy who's sort of in charge of it.
I'll
make a motion.
So I move that we put the two speed signs, one as shown on page 1 at the Belgrade Rome line, and the second one heading north, across from the, dairy bar slash
Somewhere in that.
seafood station. There's a speed limit sign, we'll put it there.
Second,
And so that other place, that second place, is not far from Rufus Lane, where we were just talking about with.
Right, yeah.
Well, you know,
I mean, it's not far.
It's,
Half a mile, quarter mile?
yeah, between the 8th and the 4th.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it though, I mean, so.
Yeah.
It makes sense in a lot of ways,
yeah.
so, anyway,
Okay, all in favor, Melanie?
Yes.
Peter?
yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote yes, 5 yeses. Speed signs.
Okay.
All right. Our manager report.
The comprehensive plan committee will attend the February 20 meeting to give a presentation to the board. The roads committee met and discussed the status of roads utilizing larger culverts where needed to help when we have large amounts of rain or melting. Roads for possible paving consideration, traffic lights to aid in traffic flow when work is being done, replacing flaggers. I think that was a discussion maybe during a budget meeting. So I have a follow-up on that. I saw Jason this morning, we talked. Those lights, and you would need to run about 15,000 each. Yeah,
So it would be 30,000?
30,000. Yeah,
Wow.
and
How much are the
he
flaggers?
he told me they just, the state just increased the rate to $30 an hour. Yeah,
So it's 15,000 per light.
yes. Updated paper tax maps have arrived and are available for viewing at the town office. Updated digital tax maps have been uploaded to the town's website. Parks and Rec Director Dan Flashing, Jimmy Dion, Susan Baldock, and myself met with RSU 18 Superintendent Carl Gartley to discuss the trees at the Kenneth Workman Field. Carl agreed to share any cost for the work to be done and to help plant new trees. In addition, there was some discussion on the tennis courts adjacent to the Workman Field. With some research, it was confirmed RSU 18 owns the fields and courts. There are donor restrictions on the courts. Additional information, tree removal and planting will come before the board at a future meeting. So once we have, I think Corey has them and he'll send them to me for your next meeting, but once we have all of the estimates for the trees, planting trees, removing those roots from the ground, then that will come before you all. Comprehensive Plan Committee met January 31 and we'll meet again February 21.
Can I just interject there? Because, the topics that are going to be discussed on February 21 are transportation and housing. So, if anybody has any ideas of people in town who would be experienced and hopeful in looking at those two areas, this is not the only time, this is the, you know, the kind of the first pass through. But it's really helpful to have some people with expertise. I've contacted Neighbors Driving Neighbors and they're gonna send one or two people, so just put that out there, if you know of anybody interested in with some experience in transportation and housing issues. Sorry.
That's okay. The March newsletter is finished and will be mailed out soon. The fire department building committee met January 31 and finalized a draft request for proposal for engineering services. You will consider at your meeting, which was tonight.
Done.
I attended both the comprehensive plan meeting January 31 and fire department building meeting immediately following the comprehensive plan meeting. We ran over a bit. Update from David Allen of the Maine Department of Transportation about permanent signs at the Center for All Seasons. You saw that I forwarded it out. We had previously approved the installation of these signs under the following conditions. They would need to be MUTCD compliant. The wording on the sign would be event ahead. It would be a black on yellow warning sign, diamond shaped. It could be in place 1 hour before the event starts and must be down 1 hour after the event ends. The signs could be a permanently installed folding sign or a sign on a temporary sign stand, like a work zone sign stand. The sign could be 30 inches by 30 inches, 36 by 36, or 48 by 48. Height to the bottom of the sign is 5 feet. The sign and sign stand may not be placed on the shoulder of the highway. If a permanently installed folding sign is used, it must fold closed away from the highway when not in use. Responsibility for the signs and ensuring they are used in compliance with the above would be the town's. This authorization can be rescinded by the department if issues arise with the signs. I think we talked about that, if there was an issue with the signs being taken down, they were left out. Meeting February 1 with Maine DOT, read this reference of speed signs that are being donated to us. These will be placed going into and coming out of the village area, which you just discussed. The TN bid notice went out February 2 from Bernstein Sure. These will be due February 15, ready for the board's review and award at the regularly scheduled meeting on February 20. I think I included a copy of that. I did. The notice invitation to bid. Chair of the dams committee, Craig Alexander, alerted us that dams are now open and to use caution. We've posted notices to our Facebook page, website, talking sign and posters in the public area of the town office. A candidate forum will be held February 12th at 6:30 p.m. at the town office. That's it.
Executives. Any questions for Lauren? Sorry.
Yes. Yes, we can figure out.
Okay, we need a brief executive session. I'll forward.
That's just.
So I move that we exit the regular meeting at 10:21 p.m.
At 6 a.m.
Night, Bruce.
I know.
Night, Jeff. Night, Tracy.
Is your legacy verse? So I guess.
Yeah.